Hey everyone, Sawmill Charlie. Hey Steve, Robert. Everyone, I'm feeling a bit better today. Thought I'd come on, and I didn't know if anybody else was kind of bored over the holiday weekend type thing. I know Bob is going on a bit of a vacation. I think he's in Cherokee, North Carolina. I think the last post that I did happen to see. Like everybody's on there, Tar Hill and Joseph. Let me go ahead and pop the link in. And let me see if I can get this straight. There we go. Paste. Get out of there. There's the link. I'll try to get it pinned. There we go. Why won't it pin? Hmm. Yep. Invite. Copy. Well, guys, I don't know why I can't get it to pin, but if you can click on it, it usually pins right up. But anyway, there's the link for anybody to get in. Hopefully it'll work for you. I don't know quite why it won't pin like it normally does. Maybe Lee can get in here and fix the thing. But anyway, we had a cold and a sore throat and feeling pretty yucky here the last 2 or 3 days. And it's been cold and wet and all that kind of stuff. And so I figured, well, I'd jump on here tonight and see if how long I can last as far as talking. Things are getting better as long as I keep drinking something and all that. Anybody try to come in and see whether that's going to work tonight for some reason? I don't know why it doesn't or won't. Hmm. Well, go back to Facebook, your channel. Huh. I don't know. I can't get it to pin for some reason. But anyway, that's what's been happening here. Weather's been in the 40s. It's been dampish. It hasn't really rained that much as far as this week goes. And it is pretty much 7 comments. So that's pretty much what's happening here. The bees haven't really been flying for the last 4 or 5 days that I know of because I hadn't been out there. And all that. I was wondering whether Tom would be on here tonight to give me a weather report from out there in Ohio. Hey, Ed. I'm just kind of going down the list here to see who all's here. Paul from Hail Hives. Stone River JB. Mitchell. Grayson's out there. Robin Hood. Hey, Blaine. Let's see what else we got. James. $73 Fahrenheit. Man. That's out there with. Let's see where am I at. Paul's in Michigan. Oh, here comes Joseph. So at least the link works. I know that much. I cannot get it to pin for some reason. There's the triple dots that don't show up.
Oh, you're not seeing them?
No.
I can see them on my end, but I can't do anything about it.
You can't pin it?
No.
I've never had that problem. Hey, Darren. Lisa.
Probably got to be a moderator to pin it.
I don't know.
A lot.
Everybody else, if I highlight them, the pins or the triple dots come up.
You trying to do it on the YouTube side, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it on the YouTube side. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is with this.
Yeah, I was talking about the weather. I was muted. I was wondering what was going on with my computer,
Mm-hmm.
and it somehow I accidentally muted it. But yeah, I was talking about the weather. It was in the closest. Last time I looked today, it was around 70. It's 58 now.
30 up in Vermont. It's 40 degrees right here right now. It might have got up to 45. Hey, hallelujah. Yeah, it's not really been much to do. But like I say, I got a bad sore throat, and then it turned into a head cold, and luckily it didn't last. A friend of mine, he said to start taking some vitamin C and um, zinc and that kind of stuff. I did all that along with some Sudafed and things of that nature, and it seemed to help out. Maybe it's just one of them short, quick things, hopefully. My main thing is to be able to be nice and healthy when I'm going to Kentucky.
That's what's been worrying me. Everybody around me is getting sick, and I'm staying away from them. That's been going on for the last
Hey,
3 or
Ron.
4 weeks.
Yeah,
I'm doing my best to stay away from everybody.
Oh, there's a New Year's Eve music show, and I'm gonna go ahead and stick it in here again. Just let anybody else wants to come in. Oh, there it is. Now it seems to pin the message. I don't know what its problem was. Now it's pinned.
Yep, it's pinned now.
But had the flu and the stomach bug. Yeah, a friend of mine, actually, she comes on here, Nancy, from up in Pennsylvania. Just had hold your tongue right. Well, anyway, she had a lot of coughing and all that kind of stuff, and then she got, I'm gonna call it the flu, AGD, and all that kind of stuff, and she just now getting over it. Quite a bit of issues with that, and trying to get all my list of names here. I know I try to remember everybody. It's kind of hard to do. That's Jack. Hey, Mr. McNally. Good to see you. And all that. And then there's Todd. Yeah, I watched your video, Todd. And I also watched Tim and Hannah's this evening.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. Just my concern is the snow and bad weather for that plate going out there. But the flu's going around. It seems to be.
I'm going to be bringing medicine with me.
Oh yeah,
just in case.
Robin
my
Hood?
oldest son's a pharmacist, and he starts handing out all kind of stuff to take. I don't even bother asking him what it is. I just take it.
He didn't. What, he just gave you some stuff to say, this is what you need?
When I start getting sick, he'll give me some things to take. It seems to help a lot. But I always deal with a little dry cough.
Right.
But I hadn't really felt sick yet, so maybe I'll make it.
I'm not sure, Ed. I think I did, as far as subbing to you. I'll have to look at that, Ed, see if I did. Or at least I thought I did. No, I don't even know what his recipe is. A black Christmas, meaning there's no snow. I'm happy with that. I'm at that age where I don't care if it doesn't snow.
Rodney said it's an old man's call. Probably about 15 years working in a paper mill too had something to do with it.
Hmm.
On and off. And coal burners, worked in them old coal plants.
Yeah, if Carl gets on here tonight, I received his care package of cinnamon honey and peanut butter honey. I haven't been in it yet because I kind of wanted to get myself cleared up first to get a good taste of it. And I got some cocoa honey from Flower Street here a while back. That's tasty. So I'm good to go for February for my club's tasting, honey tasting and stuff. A lot of folks, I think, they don't know what creamed honey is and stuff like that and all that. So anyway, that's what's been happening around here. Just getting better, and it's been cold but dry, and yeah, hit the like bucket if you like, all that, and let's see, what did I want to do here? Um, but that's what happened. Are you doing anything in your hives down there where you're at, Joey?
No, I hadn't been in one in a couple of weeks. Oh, well, I take that back. Uh, One I opened yesterday and poured about a gallon of sugar water in it. Oh, it was
Yeah,
one of the small.
you're still warm enough to do all that, I guess.
Yeah, uh, you can kind of watch them. I got one nuke with a jar on it, and when it's cold, it won't move. And then one day when it warms up, they'll take half that jar down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure it does. I know Todd. He was worried about food, but he said his stuff was bringing in some honey or some nectar and that kind of stuff. Well, thanks, Joseph. Or Joey. I mean, that's nice of you. Thank you for the Christmas present.
You're welcome.
But
Yeah, I watched this video earlier. He seemed like he was kind of. I see. I'm used to seeing that where I'm at. They may
mhm.
go 2 or 3 days and won't even hardly come out of the box, and then one day they're busy as they can be. You know, they just it looks like middle of June. But
Right.
he is right though. If they do a lot of flying like that and no nectar coming in, they'll drive a hive up in a hurry.
You know, that's good. I don't. I guess you got that from me. Oh, a waffle fan. What's a waffle fan? Is that
Good
a
question.
fan with an electric heat lamp in there or something? What is that, Michael? And then James here, some of his hives are rocking, and then possibly in trouble. Some of them are possibly in trouble and all. Well, they're in the barn, so you can't do too much in there that I know of. And Norman, thanks for the donation. Uh, So what is it? This is funny. Why is Sandy so jolly? Because he knows where all the naughty girls live. Okay. All right now. Yeah, Brian C wants to know what a waffle fan is too.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but is it a fan that's made you know, withstand the heat? I said, what is your heat source? What's I asked that? Is it a is it a reptile light, or it's not a light actually, heat refractor or whatever, or is it a regular heat lamp like that's what I use? Chris says his all 19 are alive and well. As far as I know, all of my 30, I think, yeah, there's 29 or 30 of them out there that are all in good shape. Hey, honeybee compound.
Yeah, the days mine's been flying. See, Rodney said he put some sub out. The days my
Yeah.
bees been flying, they bringing in a kind of a dull, dark, dull orange pollen. I don't know what that is. They've been bringing it in pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Um, let's see who was asking a question about. Yeah, Stone River. Yeah, I watched Brad's video today and all. Um, I found it interesting and all. I'm not I'm not a cook person that much. Oh, okay. Now I get it. Yeah, a waffle fan. I think we call them pancake fans, if I'm not mistaken, in the business. In the
What did he say it was?
he said it's like a computer fan. Sometimes they
Oh,
call sometimes they call them pancake fans.
okay.
And there is Carl. Yes, Carl, I received your package a couple of days ago. I just opened it up. I think, let's see, was it today? Been, like I say, been sick in the bed, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I can do popcorn. That's pretty good. I got that timed out pretty good. There's a link from James there to look at these different heaters. I haven't, like you say, Carl, I'm still a little bit under the weather. I'm going to wait till I get cleared out before I do any tasting. But it all looks good. Everything got here very well. And it did come like the guy told you did. It came the next day, I believe it was. Or at least I found it sitting on my table when I came out the front of the house. Yeah, I'm on the mend for sure. Yeah. I felt better as the days went by today. Yeah, I don't know about rum. I'm not sure. I never really had rum, but I did take a little bit of honey too. That seems to smooth the throat down quite a bit. I thought maybe some of the peroxide that's in honey would maybe help kill the infection in my throat. Of course, everybody says it's a virus, you know. I said, well, when you're bringing up green gunk, to me, that's infection. But the
Yeah.
darn doctors today won't give you anything. My old country doctor, who's been dead for I don't know, 25 years at least. We went to him, and he was the guy that there's James, but he was the guy that had his pharmacy in his office. Everything was in his office, and then he had these little suckers, as I call them. They were kind of brown looking, and you would suck on them and it would kill all that stuff out. How's James tonight?
Good. I figured I'd pop in here quickly. We're expecting some company to come over, but I thought I'd pop in here and wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And,
yeah. Damn it.
Don't wreck everything. I hope that wasn't your hot rum toddy.
Nah, that was my Coke, but I was trying to get some stuff out of the way and all that, but
whoops.
Oh, I happen to have some towels here. Not all of it, but some of it.
So I'm sitting here with my feet up in front of this, in front of me, and my Christmas tree behind me. So
yeah, it looks pretty.
So
yeah.
But what's everybody up to tonight?
I don't know. I just got kind of bored, and I figured maybe I could go live tonight and hang out with my friends. I know Bob I think he's in Cherokee, North Carolina. He was at the Indian gambling place and all. Hi there. How are you?
Good. Merry Christmas.
Huh?
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you.
I'm not sure she could be on here. I think she has too much hair.
Well, I used to have hair too.
I still have it. It just seems to be all on my back now.
Yeah. But
growing everywhere where it's supposed to.
That's right.
So, have you, kind of got into your new machine yet?
No,
no.
We unloaded it. We'll do that after the new year. So, that trip down there was between Alan and I both working. So I mean, we both took time off. You get down there, and of course, your job doesn't stop while you're gone. So between taking that week to go down there, coming back, we unloaded it, and then with Christmas season and everything, we just unloaded it, put it in the shed, and we'll look at that in the new year.
Yeah.
So I was quizzing Ian up on how his unit is set up, and actually, I think today he posted a really good video on. Was
you the guy that questioned him about his spin?
Well, I was
spin
one
machine.
I was one of them. So yeah, I was asking if I with the spin screen, the Cowan spinner, if I could put all the honey and stuff like that through that. So he doesn't recommend it. So we will be drawing up and building a sump. So I'm just trying to figure out how to make that sump conveyor the wax automatically into the bin to auger it into the wax spinner. So I'm working on that one right now.
I think I watched a beekeeper, I forget where he was at. Like he said, like he had a 40 frame unit there and had this big drum or something off to the right side of it. And that seemed to be the wax spinner that it would kind of spin out, kind of like a cement mixer.
Oh yes.
Thing. And I guess that's something what you have.
Well, mine is definitely the Cowan one. If you take a look on the Cowan website, it is definitely designed to spin the honey and everything like that out of the cappings, but it's designed as a batch system. So auger it out, put it in there, put that batch in there, and then let it spin out, auger the wax out of it, and then do it again. It's actually the same wax spinner that Cayman Reynolds uses. So Cayman's got a video on his site on how that works too. So,
but you're trying to figure out how to separate the honey and the floating wax.
Yeah, I think I've got that figured out. But the biggest one is, it's easy to put a sump in there. I want it to be automatic. So that's the That's the trick.
Well, yeah, you could put a slump in there, and then that honey will pass underneath them baffles. But then you're still going to have to
Scoop it.
scoop it or do something.
That's what I'm not going to do. So,
Well, you're smart enough. You seem to know how to do that kind of stuff. I have no experience in that kind of that type of thing.
yeah. Well, I am a journeyman sheet metal worker by trade too, so that helps.
Yeah,
That
I can
ain't
see.
fair.
Well, I've seen some. Your heater, your wax melter, I think it was that you built.
My
Your
box dipper.
dipper. It looked like factory made,
So,
and it was class A. So I'm sure you'll come up with something.
oh, I think I've already got it up here. I just got to get it.
Well, now you got a new product to sell. You got a wax dipper you can sell now, and then you can have this here batch, the float thing
Absolutely.
and all that stuff for anybody. I don't know if anybody I listened to Ian's setup, and it sounded like to me that
Well, the Cooks and Beal spin float is designed as a continuous operation wax separating system. So, the problem that I have with that is, I don't have a Cooks and Beal spin float, and to buy one, I don't even know what they're worth. I think they're worth like, I don't know, $20,000 or $40,000 or something like that.
I've heard something like 50,000 new.
And that probably, I don't know if that includes the heater. So you need the heater to go with it. So, anyways, I think we got one good system. I think I've got it figured out how to make it work for us very well. So it's just it's another project to have to do in between building boxes and frames and everything.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to ask you is does Cowan still make your style of
Yes.
extractor unit with that batch spinning unit?
Absolutely, you can buy one off their website right now. So,
Well, you can hook a deal up with them and sell them a patent, something like that,
so
and all that. Well, that sounds good. That there's a market there that you could build them type things
oh, I think so. Yeah,
in your spare time.
yeah. I have so much of that.
Yeah, I had let's say Brian is on, welcome there, and somebody asked a question about Bob Binney and his vaporizer, the Beast. Seth used. That's the one with the DeWalt blower on it.
So if that's the one with the DeWalt
It looks
blower,
like a shotgun.
and it's a long one, those are actually designed. I do believe that the individuals that have the patent are
in California, aren't they?
No, they're 30 minutes north of me.
It was yellow and it was a long tube,
Stainless steel.
and he kind of like smacked it on the ground to recharge it or something or another. I've got how that.
Maybe that one's different then, because the one that they have up here, you can either put the powder or the pellets. You don't even have to bend over. You open up the little gate, you put in it, you close it. It's a propane torch that heats the end down at the bottom.
That's what he had a propane torch on it.
Yeah, thermostatically controlled, and it's a little DeWalt blower on it. You betcha. Well, in fact, I know for a fact that they have the patent on it, on that one. Anyways, it might be something different, but that's just north of me here. Those were designed, manufactured, and I do believe are manufactured here in Alberta. So,
all right, maybe they'll be at Nobby.
well,
I know he was covering some ground with it.
They were just about. I was going to bring one, and that's how I know, because I was going to bring one down for the Hive Life conference from them last year, except the patent arrived after I had left. Otherwise, I would have brought one down for the conference for everybody to see.
I don't wonder what they're going down there or not.
So that I'm not sure.
Are you coming?
I am not. No.
Hmm.
So, no. I with that trip to Mississippi, and
It killed your vacation.
a few other things I've got. Yeah. I wouldn't say kill my vacation. I think I still got 3 weeks of vacation. But I got a lot of work I got to get done up here, so I just really can't afford to take another week and a half off right now. Even though I have the vacation, it's just the time. I still got to get going on boxes. I got to get going on frames. So,
all right, well, I'll have to catch up with you sometime.
Oh, you can't get rid of me that easy. So,
Jake, there was one point there you wasn't about less than 2 hours from me.
Oh, well, I was telling that to Tim and Hannah, and who else was it? I think Mike. I was saying somehow. I mean, I get it. Nobody wants to throw their personal addresses and stuff out there, but when people are going on a trip like that, we need some way to let everybody know where we're at, because it sure would have been nice to stop in and see a whole bunch of people. And apparently I was within, just a couple hours of a lot of people on that trip. Now I did cover a lot of ground, but it sure would have been nice to be able to stop in and at least, say hi and, see everybody.
That's kind of one of them situations where it's like when I go down and get bees with my friend, we're not too far away from Bob's house, but it's a situation there when you're loaded with bees, it's a straight shot back. We got it. We were home in 12 hours.
Well, yeah. I mean, we did have, so I had it arranged with Homeland Security and the Canadian Border Service agencies to cross the border on a certain day. So, so that just made it simple for the, taxes and fees and duties, and everybody knew, as far as exporting from one country and importing into another. So that's about the only timeline we had.
Yeah. But it's like everything else, you got to get back home, you got to get to work. And it's like, we'd love to stay down here and play for 2 or 3 days, but it's like, we got to get back.
Well, it was interesting because when we left Mississippi, a big storm hit them. And as we kind of came back up through, where was it? I guess Tennessee and then Oklahoma and everything over that way. The day after, they got hit with those storms. And then we came up through Dodge City. Apparently there was a factory that we drove right past, and within minutes, we in fact stopped in Dodge City to fill up the fuel. And all the fire trucks and everything are all booking herself pat down to this factory, and you look down there and there's this big black plume of black smoke that's coming up, and it's like, holy smokes, and then when we were coming up through Wyoming and Montana, they closed the highway, and then because of the strong winds, people were getting blown off the highway and everything. It's just like we're leaving the path of destruction behind us. It had absolutely nothing to do with us. But it was just.
But you got ahead of all those closing of highways and stuff.
Absolutely, it was just really good luck. We seemed to be one step ahead of all of the weather and the disasters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That worked out really well for us.
You see what Todd said?
I can't see. I'm on my iPad, so I can't see the comments tonight.
Let's see if I can find it again.
Yeah, he said he didn't go by his place. I guess the gas prices are too high.
Oh, yeah. Well, your fuel prices down there, in all honesty, they're 50% what we're paying up here. I mean, everybody complains about fuel down there, and you guys
it's
are
actually come down a little bit.
Yeah,
they came down to like almost just a penny or two under $3. Now they're back up to like $3.29 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about what the news media yapped about was over there, and those Sierra, what is it? Sierra, whatever they where the pirates are.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, pop a darn aircraft carrier and blow them. You know, shoot some, rocket them
Yep.
down.
Yep. But yeah, no,
I
like I
think it's
said,
like 279 here.
oh yeah, no. I mean,
Man, that's cheap.
yeah.
It's been around 3 or better, but it's like 279
Yeah.
last couple of weeks.
It's funny because the week we were down there, you didn't mind fueling up at all, and then you'd pull up to the pump, and I got what? It's a 122 liter tank on my truck, but we'd pull up to the pump, $60. Even if it was bone dry empty, I don't think we could get $80 in the truck. The first fill up in Lethbridge when we crossed the border was what, 144 or 148 bucks or something like that, and we weren't empty. So it's when you convert liters to gallons, Canadian dollar to the American dollar, you guys are less than 50% of what we're paying up here, and we're sitting on it. I don't know, all taxes. So I think our prime minister needs, he's trying to save up to get some more drama lessons or something. I don't know.
Well, I'm just glad that you finally found something that you were looking for, and it's going to meet your needs.
Patience, right? I keep telling everybody, take the time, just keep looking, you'll find it. And we did. So
That's good. And all that kind of stuff. And well, like I say, I'm glad, everybody's looking for certain different types of machinery and that kind of thing. So
absolutely. Well, I think my company just drove up, so I'm going to jump off here. But like I say, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yeah, good to talk with you.
Hope everybody has a great holiday season here, and I will tune in next time around.
All right, we'll see you,
James.
Glad you
Merry
stopped in.
Christmas.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yep, there he goes.
He's always got something interesting going on.
Yeah, and I watched. He had that there wax melting dipping tank, and I mean that thing was class A. I mean the welds and the bends, and like I say, it looked like he had all the right machinery to do the right jobs making that thing, and I think he was putting in 3 burners in order to reduce the amount of wait time to get your product hot enough to be able to cook your boxes and stuff and that kind of thing.
I used to buy wax dip boxes from a guy down here that he just kind of stopped about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The equipment the boxes were getting so high that he would buy them and put them together and then cook them and then resell them. And it got so high that I guess people wasn't wanting to buy them from him or whatever. I was buying like a dozen a year. Every year I'd buy at least a dozen from him where I needed them or not. And he kind of shut down. I've been thinking about calling him to see if he wanted to sell his rig. I'm not sure if I want to get involved in that or not. But he told me he would still do it for anybody if he needs a minimum of 50 boxes to justify.
There's Bob Walker.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob. Having fun on a little bit of a vacation there? I will have to say I'm sure I find it, what you've done with your mom and everything, and especially your wife. We all need a good vacation for something like that. Well over, a long time getting there type of thing. But yeah, I had no experience with wax dip boxes or anything. I don't know. I paint mine. Now when I paint mine, like the end grains, I sit there and, usually it takes a couple coatings for paint, and I make sure I really soak those ends in. 18th wedding anniversary. Yeah. That's great, Bob.
Still newlywed.
Huh? What's that, Joey?
I said he's still newlywed.
Yeah.
18 years.
Doing better than I am.
Hmm.
But no, he was like Bob was talking about his wife taking care of his mom and stuff, and then they took care, I think, of her mother, and it's been a long duration, and they're duly needed a vacation and a celebration of their anniversary. So
yeah,
hope you have a lot of fun.
He's in a good place.
I've been there, and that was when I was a kid, back up there in Cherokee, North Carolina. I don't know what it's like now. Maybe
I love going up in that area. I don't necessarily go through Cherokee all the time, but
yeah,
I just love to get somewhere close to the Smokies.
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled the Blue Ridge Highway trail and all that stuff, the highway down through that area. But maybe that would be something different to go over there. I know I was going to go over to, there's a place, another town up in the Smokies there, close to Cherokee. They had a lot of music and stuff. And Raymond Fairchild used to have a music show there, but he's passed away and they've closed the place down. And I think a lot of the other places around there have closed it down. I think because some of the local people I kind of knew through music said that the interstate that it would take them on up to 81, I guess, that pretty much killed them.
Yeah.
And JD there says that, or Jack says they handle better moisture and stuff. Maggie Valley, that's right, Keith, that's it. Yeah, I always heard about that place. That was a place to be, but I hear it's kind of lost its appeal. I'm not sure whether it has or not, due to
it's
lack
building
of,
back up now.
Is it?
They used to have a big place there, Ghost Town in the Sky.
Yeah, I've been seeing that
tourists.
I've been seeing that on the Facebook, where it's Deadsville, type of thing.
Yeah. But I went through there a couple years ago, and it was starting to build back up with other things,
Mm-hmm. Well, they had a place called the Stomping Ground, and it was clogging and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's where I want to go. I want to check that place out for dancing. And some older lady that she said she had went there years ago, and she didn't particularly care for it, but and all that. But I'd still like to. I kind of felt like I should have went on over there anyway when we were down around Asheville, but we didn't get there. But maybe time or another trip, Cherokee and all that. So, but
sometimes those Smokies can get overcrowded.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just like down there at
motorcycle.
Yeah, Maggie Valley has some kind of a motorcycle museum down there and all. But look at Gatlinburg and all that. I mean, to me, it was crowded in January when you went to Hive Life. And they say, well, This is nothing compared to like Christmas where it's gridlocked. I said, well, that's no fun to me at all. If that's how bad it is.
It gets crowded in October around just about any time in October. And then again around the Thanksgiving holidays and then around Christmas. and it's always crowded in July.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Keith, that's what we have a place called Ocean City, Maryland, and it's on the Atlantic Ocean, and that's what I said about. I tell people about down there at Sevierville, and I said it's like Ocean City in the mountains, without the ocean.
Yeah, I've rode the Dragon Tail several times on my Gold Wing.
So, but anybody else would like to come in, chit chat? How about you, Carl? Keith, whatever.
I pulled in another dead out yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah. And there was a colony that I actually pulled honey off of this summer. But I don't know what happened to it. I don't know. It just disappeared.
I don't know. A couple of weeks ago, I opened up a nuke to Bob was talking to Brad up in Canada about the brood situation, and where Bob had like 3 or 4 frames of brood. I said, well, I'll go in one of my nukes, and I don't normally do that. And I went ahead and popped the top box off, which is mostly sugar water honey, and bee population was there, but I pulled up 2 center frames out of the bottom box, and there was honey there and there was bees there, but there wasn't, nobody was laying anything. There was open comb for them to lay. So I just put it all back together and I said, all right, I'm done. Leave them alone.
Yeah. That one that Tim and Hannah looked at, they had one side of one of those frames was full. That thing was full of honey.
Okay, Carl. Hope you had a good sale day at the sales.
I mean, I said honey, full of brood, I meant.
There's Mr. Ty from California.
Hey, Todd.
Evening. Oi, I'm full.
You're
I
full?
watched your video earlier today.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest to you to come out here and show me the ropes when the bees are flying in December, because I don't see that often.
Yeah.
But now, is December your cold month, or is that later on?
December, January is the coldest. So on each side of January, it's cold.
So you got 4 more weeks, and then you're back to spring.
Yeah. Well, more than that, I hope. Because the way sugar is, I don't want to deal with that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy out there. You could even hear on the video all the bees in the air. They were everywhere.
Yeah, I seen them bringing some pollen in, like you were shooting there.
Yeah, there was.
And the only thing I could think of is you said you had rain that you normally don't have, and there's some kind of desert flower, I'll call it, out there that is blooming because of the rain.
Yeah,
and they got something to go to.
The eucalyptus trees are blooming right now, which is very strange, at least around where I'm at. So they're probably going to, falling from those trees. But usually everything shuts down by now. It's.
Well, I didn't know eucalyptus was a tree. I thought it was a plant or a bush.
No, it's a tree. It's a big tree.
I guess this weird year
in your video there along your hives, you had those trees there. They looked like they were brown.
Mm-hmm.
And all. What kind of a tree are they?
Those are just ornamental trees. There's at the end of that row and in the middle, in the middle there's a couple cherry trees, but of course they're dormant.
Yeah.
They're semi. On one end there was a Japanese. It's not a
Formosa tree.
Well, there's Formosa trees out there, or Hermosa trees. I can't remember which, but there's 2 or 3 of them out there right next to the hives, and they're the dirtiest trees. They litter like crazy. But gosh, Japanese boxwoods, Japanese tree. Anyway, it's got yellow or white flowers on it when it blooms, and so
Bonsai.
I don't know. It's a big bonsai then, but there's some of those out there. But everything, the plums and the peaches and the nectarines and everything like that is, they're bare. They've dropped all their leaves. Oranges are coming in. Oranges are starting to get picked, I guess, next week. And then those flowers, those buds, they'll bud up in April. And that's my first flow. So
that's good.
Yeah, but between now and then, it's going to be a tightrope, I think, between feeding and not feeding.
Well, you were saying that they look like they had some nectar coming in, so maybe it'll sort of balance out. And everything. I mean, the last couple of years we had the lanternfly here, which we never had before. We never had honey coming in. You always had to feed a little bit. One year I had swarming because I fed too much.
Yeah.
Didn't understand it. And then the last 2 years, the bees have been doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yay. And it saved me 700 pounds of honey or something, or 700 pounds of sugar and all that kind of stuff.
I thought I was going to get away with it this year. I left a lot on the hives because Apigard. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make it. But
well, I look at it this way. I'm glad that you're glad you left it on there.
Yeah. Because
I know months ago you were complaining, man, I could have harvested 1,000 pounds of honey or more.
Yeah.
You probably been buying 2,000 pounds of sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it comes out in the wash, but I just wish, I wish I knew which way it was going to go. But hey, whatever. It's farming, right?
Yep. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. You just have to. Mother Nature is a mad scientist sometimes, and she just does what she wants, and you have to ride the wave, and that's what I'm doing.
So, Joey, you cleaned that hive up. Did you still have an inkling of what happened there? Was it too small of a hive, or?
I think it just started dwindling down real quick. I don't know if it was a weak queen or what it was. But last time I looked in it, they'd gotten down to like 3 frames of brood. And I hadn't been in it in a while, but there was like 3 frames of brood where everything else had 5 to 6 frames of brood. And I peeked in it yesterday when I was feeding the one I told you I put the sugar water on.
Right.
I peeked in it. What I peeked in it for is I wanted to make sure my following board was in place. And it was in a long hive. And when I got in it, there wasn't a bee in it. They hadn't been long gone because there wasn't any wax moth damage in there or anything. We still got wax moths flying around here.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Well, it's like I watched, the fellow that's a beekeeper over in Israel. He was mentioned by Bruce's Bees, and I don't know, somehow I clicked into him, and he was over there. I guess they have winter too, and getting his hives prepped, but he had a nuke there that was it didn't really have a lot of bees in it. And well, he was saying he could combine it, and he didn't know whether both of them had queens. And he took the 6-frame nuke and he stuck it in a 10-frame box, I think. And I'm like, you should have just left it in that box. And then he had a 10 frame box that had about the same size of population. I said, you need to condense that down to a 6 frame box if you're not going to put both hives together and try to get one decent hive out of it to get it through the winter. But some people say to do it that way. But on the other hand, well, there's a problem in each one of them for some reason. You know, the queen's not doing something or whatever. But I told him, I said, don't expect, you know, if it died, don't be upset about it, because I don't expect it to live and all that. And that's kind of a hard, I won't say a lesson, but something that you do proactive. You have to view it as taking a hive and getting rid of a queen and putting that queen or putting that group of bees with another group of bees. Proactive, you know, and sometimes you don't want to do that, but way it goes.
That's why I like to have my double screen boards. You can take one like that when they're in a regular hive and just set it on top of another one.
Yeah.
A lot. But if I got a failing queen, I don't help her too much. She's just, I'm either just going to pull her and combine or leave them alone till they're gone, just like I did that one. I don't fight it.
Yeah, I do have one nuke air. It's just 5 frames, and it's got a pretty good bee population. And maybe I should have used a double screen on that. It's just harder to feed everyone and everything.
Yeah.
And all that. But
well, I'll tell you, I had my round with wax moth this year. It was weird.
oh yeah.
Yeah. I know Joey said something about her a minute ago, but man, oh man, they were thick this year.
Yeah, I think they were stronger this year than normal.
Yeah. Strange.
Yeah, I haven't had too much problem with that. I haven't really had any minimized hives like that either.
Lucky you. Yeah.
Back in, I think it was November, sometime in November when I was downsizing a couple of my double deep boxes, and they were not quite enough bees in there for me to be satisfied of leaving 2 boxes. I started giving them anything that had honey and the brood and putting it all in one box. And I had set one box over to the side and going back to work doing something. And when I walked back over to that box, I saw 2 or 3 wax moths just come land on that box right out in the wide open. I said, look at this.
Yeah, man. I got to get a drink.
You know, I've chased those wax moths with my hive tool around the, you know, like around the frame or on the side of the frame or on the side of the box. Damn it, those things, they seem to always just get out of the way at the last second. And
yeah,
I'm not very good.
They'll move around on you.
I'm better with my thumb. You know, I just do it that way.
Yeah. I do that a lot of times with hive beetles. Get them with my thumb quicker than I can get them with the hive tool.
That's that, you know, knock on wood. That's one thing I don't have to worry about where I'm at. Eventually,
you're in Todd. You're in the or upper part of California.
No, central. I'm almost in the exact center of California. It's the exact.
I thought I remembered that. Yeah.
It's about 10 miles north of me. So I'm in central California. It's not northern, not southern. So right in the middle.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think we're Northern California, but actually we're not. We're central. Northern California is basically from the Bay Area north up to the border. And then Southern California is, well, you might not know the I don't know if Mark Miller's on here. I'm sure he's been up and down the Grapevine a few times, but the valley has when you head south, there's a mountain, a group of mountains that kind of make a circle or a half circle, and the highway goes up over it and drops down into LA. Well, from there on, that's Southern California.
So where's what is it called? The Rural Valley or something like that, or the Imperial Valley?
That's way down on the border. That's
south.
But that's south. It's right next to Mexico, and it's in the middle of it's between the ocean and the Arizona border. So it's right in the middle of California down there.
Isn't that where all the growing is? A lot of growing type stuff is taking place, or
no? Well, I don't know what they grow down there, but where I'm at in the Central Valley, we grow most of we used to grow most of the food for the country here, everything you could think of, and then on top of that, cotton and other things. But other states have jumped up their ag game and are supplementing what we're not producing anymore. But we used to be a big cotton area right here. Now you can't even see cotton anymore around here. It's all fruit trees. You get your plums, peaches, nectarines. They call them stone fruit because it's got the pit in the middle.
Yeah,
those are your stone fruits. And we have quite a bit of citrus.
Where's your tomatoes and carrots and all that stuff I see videos of?
That's more kind of towards Monterey, the Bay Area, south of the Bay Area a little bit.
Now, a friend of mine, she went out there for her son's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a town out there where a lot of picking is done for like I don't think cherries or tomatoes or small vegetable type crops. Starts with a W maybe. And we looked at some of the grocery packages, in our local grocery stores, and sure enough, there was the name of that town, and people kind of looked. Steve was staying in that town, and they go, "Well, you're staying there," and because that's where all the workers live, or the local.
Are you talking about strawberries?
Yeah, maybe strawberries.
Yeah, that's Watsonville. So I was mistaken. A lot of tomatoes are grown on the west side of the valley I'm in.
Maybe it was strawberries.
Yeah, Watson.
They look down upon it, but then but if you say that you are going to something on the shore there at a beach, some fancy beach area, oh yeah, that's a great place.
Oh yeah,
and it's a stone throw from each other.
Yeah, Carmel and Monterey are right there.
Oh, okay.
South of Watsonville.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. Now they grow an awful lot of artichokes over there too.
Mm-hmm.
Artichokes love that cold sea air, ocean air. I grew up in Santa Maria, which is basically the halfway point between San Francisco and Los Angeles on the coast. Mm-hmm. And every Thanksgiving, it was like clockwork. They grew a ton of broccoli, and they grow a lot of strawberries there too. But a ton of broccoli, ton of cauliflower. Well, that gets picked about right around the beginning of November, maybe in the first week or so of November. And they'll go through the fields and they'll throw the good stuff up on the box truck, and they'll leave the bad stuff on the
and it stinks
field.
to high heaven.
Holy cow! I could not. Oh, my mom would make broccoli, and I turned my nose at it. I couldn't take it because that smell every year would just kind of go over the city.
That rotten smell.
Oh, it was bad. It was really bad. I mean, you really had to like broccoli and cauliflower to eat it if you lived in that town. And I didn't. But now I love it. Although I still won't touch cauliflower. I'll eat broccoli.
I don't like cauliflower.
No, sir, I don't either. It sucks.
My mother, I think, used to like that cauliflower,
Ugh.
and I come into the house, and I'm like, "What are you cooking? It smells like a sewer system." in here."
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh man, it's
Well, we got this here. I said, I'm eating someplace else. You can eat with your septic tank open someplace else.
yeah, because it was bad like that.
It's bad.
Ugh.
All my life, I used to tell everybody there's two things I don't like eating, and I'd have to be starving to eat it. One is liver, and one is chitlins, and and I had never tried cauliflower at that time. When I tried cauliflower, I said, "Well, I got three things now that I don't eat."
What about stewed tomatoes? I can't do stewed tomatoes at all. I can't do it.
I'm okay with it.
What are chitlins though? I really don't know what that is.
That's the intestines fried up.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Of a pig.
Oh man, I haven't tried that, but caught me out already.
Something about they scrape them and all this kind of stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
Treepus is beef intestine, and in Santa Maria, if you had sweetbreads and treepus, you were something else. Sweetbreads are basically cow brain that's sliced up real thin. And then you fry it. But
yeah.
I don't think they do that anymore after mad cow disease.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I've tried it. It's not bad. Treepus, the beef intestine's not bad. Sweetbreads is not too bad. You got to put a lot of pepper or Tabasco on it, but it's not too bad.
Just the thoughts of it.
Right.
Mm.
Keep that out of your head. You might be
I
able
was
to.
reading the contents here where Ed there, he's just about out of honey doing a lot of creamed honey. Seemed like everybody had a good market for creamed honey this year as far as sales goes. I know Carl there has been selling it faster than he can make it. He's almost out, I think. And of course, Brian, the king of cream, he's been doing a lot of it. And
I've got about 17 gallon left, and that's it.
is that right? I've been selling this week. I sold over 30 some pounds of honey. I've been selling. I'm not averaging it. It's been 30 pounds a week for 4 weeks in a row. And it's prior to that, it's been 20 pounds a week since the first of the year up to Thanksgiving when I started calculating all this out.
Wow.
And so here in the last 4 weeks, it's been 30 pounds, at least 30, 31, 32 a week. And all that. So
Charlie, when you said you got, would you get 800 or 900 pounds or something like that? I think
900. Yeah, it was almost 1,000 pounds.
When you said you got that, I thought, how's he going to sell that? Just selling out of your location.
Right now, I have sold. Let me bring it up.
You're over 1,100, aren't you?
No, I am knocking on the door hard and strong. I have sold 1,092 pounds.
Wow.
So next week I'll break 1,100 pounds of honey sold. Now, part of that was where I had a couple hundred pounds lap over from last year into this year.
Yeah.
And one thing I did this year in my financial tracking is that, and I was told to do it last year and I did. I was trying to do it from season to season, which is July to July, as far as the honey goes. And I find that very hard and confusing. So this year I said, all right, I'm going to do like everybody else, January 1 until, December 31st. And that's my year. Whether it's this year's honey or that last year's honey, it doesn't really matter. It's just my honey crop. And it's been much easier to wrap my head around that.
Yeah, because that way you're tracking the sales of the honey and not like when did you do it, like when was the honey harvested and all that stuff. It's
right.
just
Yeah, Brian, thinking hard and strong right after the knobby. If I don't see anything down there I like, to get one as far as a lifter. And I'm also, yeah. It's just I'm gonna take a shot in the dark, and I think I'm just gonna go get the one like Mike Barry's got, and everybody, and like James has got.
You know, if Lee is listening, it'd be
Who?
nice if it'd be nice if he just took a picture off the internet of that hive lifter, and so every time if you were coming into his show, just put that on there. No words, no nothing. You know, here comes
Lee from
Kodiak.
Kodiak, yeah. He take a picture of the lifter and for my intro.
Correct. Yeah. None of that cartoon single brood management thing. Scrap that and just plop a hive lifter. Right
Have a side view of the hive lifter with 2 boxes up on there, and have the cartoon single brood chamber management.
There you go.
Yeah. But
you can't go wrong with any of them.
Hey, Bruce,
Whichever one you get,
yeah.
happy with.
Yeah, I know, Joe. You got the other style, and sometimes I wonder whether that's maybe better for me, and all that stuff. But Bruce, you will like it. So, do you have one, Bruce Brown? Let us know, and so I'm already planned for next spring. Like the hives behind me there are my honey production hives. Right now, I got 12 of them, and I am going to, and I've got 20 nukes, and I sell at least 10 or more nukes per year. Bruce has got the B3. All right. Bruce, why don't you jump on here? I'd really like to talk to you in depth about that. If you can, or I don't know, we can call each other up if you want to do that. That's not a problem. But, and I was thinking about the B3, get the heavy one with the hydraulic piston on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out 4 more nukes and replace them with 2 honey production hives. So I'm going to get them up to 14 production hives. And this year I averaged 80 pounds per hive, which is higher than normal for my area due to my single brood chamber management practices. And I'm going to try to push it to where if I don't have any queen problems, and like Todd says, it's farming, and the weather cooperates right when the bloom is coming in, because those trees behind my picture there, not so much up that way, but more the other way, this way, is locust trees up through there, and it blooms and everything. And there's poplar trees around and all that stuff. And I'm going to try to possibly push it towards 100 pounds per hive. If I can get, if everything comes together.
We can't get that much out of a hive down here.
Well, around here, 50 pounds is the average. But because I do the single brood chamber, and I'm doing Apis Biologic, which just explodes your hive.
Yep.
And I do the Demery, which and a lot of people say, well, like Brad Nim, I tried their management practice, but it's like everything else. They're in a different climate. They're in a different position on the earth to where their honey season starts, I think, around June. And mine is over by June. Mine's April, May, and June. That's the same set of months when my swarm season is at its peak. So I'm pulling half of my cat brood out of the bottom. Now, yes, I'm going in there every 2 weeks or so, or 2 weeks, or maybe sooner, pulling half of the brood out of the bottom box, putting in empty frames to keep her laying. then your queen excluder. That's 2 medium boxes for me. I don't do deeps. And then I do medium honey supers, and then I put that medium top brood box up on top with the cap brood. So that way you minimize queen cell production up here. I'll go back here a couple of days later and just shake the bees off to make sure they're not doing any queen cells and smash them or whatever. And your bee population just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now you got a huge field force, and it brings the honey in, and I don't have any swarming. I'll have more swarming out of my nukes because you got them in a confined situation there, and I try to get them out the door come April. Get them out the door and get them sold, the majority of them, or if the ones that didn't get sold, put an extra box on.
Charlie, how did you do your very first year of the single brood chamber management? How did you do on that? Because I tried it last year with one hive and it didn't work out so well. We ended up in May. May was a good year. I was really surprised. I was trying to go with 3 shallows. No, it was 2 shallows on it, and it started
I did
up real good.
2 years ago. I did 1,200 pounds of honey.
Yeah, was that your first year?
Yeah. I mean, all the stars lined up. I'll have to say that much.
Yeah,
everything lined up. Now, last year, not this year, but the year before, here comes the damn tree trimmers and cut the darn locust trees back right before the bloom.
yeah.
And I'm like, I'm done. And my honey was darker, because it was more poplar than it was locust.
Yeah.
This year, they left the trees alone, and I had beautiful locust trees, and it's that real light yellow looking honey, and
It's good.
I always, you take a spoonful of it as it's coming out of the extractor, I just tasted a little bit, and I'm like, man, that is cotton candy. That's just how sweet it is. And I'll tell you something, Todd, that there blue curl, I don't see too much difference between it as far as the sweetness.
Really?
I think it's just as sweet as mine.
Huh.
Yeah. Because
Wow.
I'm like, you kept talking about it was so good. And I'm like, well, maybe your normal honey is a little bit more tart or whatever. I don't know. It comes from a different source.
Yeah, after orange, it's all mixed up because several things are popping at the same time. But that blue curl, it's in late summer, and everything's died off by then. So that's the only thing coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still, some trees producing this and that, but nothing big. But yeah, that locust you sent over to me, that tasted better than that. It tasted sweeter than the blue curl is what I thought.
I don't know. I'm not a connoisseur when it comes to honey. I know I sent some to Brian at Flower Street, and he wanted to know, it's very floral, flowerful, and what is it, and I said, as far as I know, it's just locust honey, it's just what we get. And I mean, it's what I get because I've got the trees around me. They're not everywhere, but a lot of poplars around here. And I got a friend of mine that actually I bought 100 pounds from him a couple weeks ago, and he has a grove. His hives are in this grove of locusts, and it must be even more pure locust than mine, and it's even lighter than mine, as far as the clarity of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had some spring honey. He must be able to pull the florals out at a certain time. And I mean, people says, what is this stuff? Sugar water? There's no color to it. It's murky white.
Wow.
And I said, and I didn't get to taste it. I said, what's it taste like? He says, it tastes like honey. He said, I don't know what it is, but it's pure white.
Mm.
It's like water that's got a cloudy water in it and all.
Mm.
Never seen any honey like that. But I buy that honey because I know it's locust honey. It looks like mine, or actually better than mine. And I bought it just to have insurance because I'm sitting here calculating at 20 pounds per week how many weeks can I go? And I got this much honey on stock in hand to get me through till the end of June, because I was bottling honey somewhere around the 20th of June last year.
Cool.
So I can overlap something. And then that's why I'm going to increase my honey production highs. That way, I can have more honey to overlap if that's mine. I don't really want to buy any honey.
Yeah.
And I've always had an issue with nuke buyers, especially the newbies. You know, they'll take your bees and they want to treat them like, I don't know, they don't consider them like their dog or their cat or their baby. And it's like, take them home and you put them in the hive today, not tomorrow, not 3 days from now. You know, I had one guy this year, and well, I'm not going to, take them home and throw them on top of the hive. And I'm like, no, you're not. I said, you got an hour and a half worth of daylight. You get home, take 15 minutes and put these 5 frames in each one of those hives so they don't overheat and die. So that's reducing that headache and all that. And Flower's thinking about another bottling tank.
Well, I tell you what, I'm thinking about getting a creamer.
A what?
Creamer.
Creamer?
I'm gonna get a jacketed creamer so I could double it as a bottling tank.
Yeah, that makes sense to do that. But those ones are expensive, though, aren't they? They're up.
Yeah, they are.
If you got the cells.
I think that Lyson is, I forgot what size it is, 18 gallons or something like that. I think it's $2,200, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I've got to sell a lot more creamed honey to get to that.
Yeah, you know what's happening with me with my creamed honey is everybody's jumping on it, and they're oh, I got to have that peanut butter creamed honey. That's sounds so good. And then they try it and they come back and they say, yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. And I think that they're going to order or buy more creamed honey, and they don't. They go back. They want just the liquid honey off, and I don't know what's going on with that. But so like my initial sale on the creamed honey is good, but there was no like repeat sale on it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same here. When I go to these, it's like a farmer's market. I get a lot of walk-by traffic, and they'll pick up. But maybe I don't see them next month, or maybe I won't see them in 2 months. I don't know. I kind of have the same feeling. I know in my neighborhood, the neighborhood that I sell to here, I get some repeat orders for creamed honey, but everybody wants runny honey.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm wondering if my peanut butter honey tastes too much like peanut butter. Like to me it tastes like peanut. It does taste like just like eating peanut butter. So I don't know.
I have people tell me my peanut butter honey tastes like a peanut butter and honey sandwich, and it kind of does. I used to eat a lot of those as a kid.
Really?
Oh yeah. But the one that really surprises me is the lemon. I could sell cinnamon all day long. Cinnamon just blows out. And peanut butter pretty much blows out. But lemon, I don't know. It tastes good, but not a lot of people are into it. So
I think Brian and some other people.
The flavor, the other types of flavorings?
The lemon flavor I have. It's really good. You really catch the flavoring, the lemon on the back of it. And then I have 4 flavors. The other flavor I have is just regular wildflower creamed honey, and they like that. But the lemon, for some reason, not so much. We'll see.
I don't know. I have a 25-gallon, 300-pound bottling tank. Last week, it was low, and my buckets, I normally fill them up to the bottom of the strainer out of the extraction tank. And normally it's like 55 pounds per bucket. And you're down below the lip about 3 or 4 inches. That way you can pour it without having any spillage issues in most cases. And so I put the first bucket in. Everything's fine. I'm still, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches below where the original fill line was on the side of the tank. And then I got several inches above that. I never had it actually filled right to the top. And I got another bucket downstairs and put that 55 pounds. It was like about 108 pounds or so, or 110 pounds I put in that tank. And I brought it up. I think it was maybe 2 inches or so, or 2.5 inches from the top. And I'm like, man, I've never had that tank that full. And I would say it's actually got 300 pounds of honey in it. And shoot, I pulled 40 pounds of honey out of that thing this week. And I was like, it was a shoo. It went right back down 6 inches or more.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah. Well, I got it on a scissors list from Harbor Freight. It's rated for 1,000 pounds. I wanted to overkill. And I only jack it up at table height, and I sit on a chair, and I can, use the one drip valve to fill my bottles real easy. And then I just lower it all back down, let it sit. And it works good. I did find out that there's one there that's got a 500-pound lift capacity. Well, when you look at them in person, it's the thickness of the steel cross arms, and the table isn't on the smaller one. It's small. It wouldn't fit this tank at all, as far as the feet on the bottom of the tank, where the other 1,000-pound one, it's what I wanted anyway. It's the construction of the steel was way thicker and heavier, and I'm looking at weight capacity dealing with the cylinder, and but the table size was bigger and everything, and it's definitely worth it. It's the way to go as far as using that tank. That way you put that tank down low and you're not lifting that darn thing up over your shoulders and killing your shoulders. Actually, I built a platform that's even with the table of that scissor lift. And I have a table off to the side where I can put the 5-gallon bucket over here on the table and just kind of raise it up slightly and just pour it right in. It really works good for my shoulders and stuff. And it's a lot less problems about splitting.
I've got the smaller Harbor Freight because my homemade bottling tank I had wasn't but a 15-gallon.
Right.
The one I got now is a 19-gallon, but it still works pretty good on that one.
Yeah. Does it fit on the table? Does it fit on the table good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I go to the next size, I'll definitely have to get a bigger table jack.
Yeah. But I got that idea from, let's see. I guess it was Bohemia Bees, Jason, along with Barry's Best Honey too, Mike Barry. They both had the same idea. I think Jason got it from Mike. But it works great. I enjoy my bottling tank. It's the main thing I bought the middle of the road. Next step, well, the first one's a 16-gallon, and then the next one above that's 25. And I was like hemming and hawing whether to get that, but I was one of the lucky beekeepers in my county alone, in my state. At the time, there were agricultural grants, and I was one of the last to get a grant, and they paid for about half of it. So I got $1,000 out of the county, and it pretty much paid for about half the tank. Now the scissor lift was extra and all the other stuff, but anything helps. So Darren, what else are you doing? Any processor or selling, or how's the bees?
Bees are doing good. Actually, I finally put them to bed last weekend. They're done. I put them all to bed. But the way our weather's been, they're still flying. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Like they're flying. I don't know. But the bees are doing good. Tonight I made like one small batch of pumpkin spice honey, and I didn't even want to do it. And the only reason I did that was because somebody had mentioned that in the chat. And this was way back in November. I ordered some McCormick pumpkin spice off of Amazon, and it never arrived until like way after Thanksgiving. So I thought, well, I got the spice. I might as well make a batch of that. So I did that tonight. And then I got this thing going on from my basement. That's ongoing with converting my basement into it's going to be my honey kitchen. So I got some plumbing done in my basement. Actually I had to have a bathroom like redone in there. And then I got a bunch of plumbing, like this leaky pipes and faucets and stuff that I've been trying to get after for a couple of years. And I knew I might as well just hire somebody to come in and do it. Otherwise I'm not going to get it done. And then my next step on that is I got to clean out the one side of the basement, and I'm going to put a sink in, and that's going to be my honey kitchen to start. That's going to be like phase one.
Yeah, that's what Carl.
I got to get Carl, because Carl had contacted me, and I need to get with him. He has some information on me and how just to shore up my plumbing and make sure that's all done right. So I'll get in touch with you, Carl.
Yeah. Well, Carl was explaining all that about, the exterior door, the 3-basin tank. What is it? A mop basin area for your mops, and a hand washing station.
That's if you're going to be commercial. I don't need that. Like in Pennsylvania, you only need to have a home style kitchen.
He's in PA too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he must be going maybe because he's maybe focused more on the like mixing your honeys and doing different things like that. Like
he's going to do that. He's getting legalized as far as doing creamed honey.
Right. But for doing honey in Pennsylvania, you don't need to have just regular honey. You don't need to have a commercial kitchen. The big thing in Pennsylvania is having pets.
You can't have any dogs or cats in your area where you're going to have it.
Right. So.
I've been up in Pennsylvania, and I was at one up in Westchester, PA, and the health department guy was there explaining. I'm like, damn, I'm glad I kind of live in Maryland now.
Yeah.
We don't have quite all those restrictions.
And I'm not selling any wink. It's just
it's theoretical.
He's going distributor is what they call it. I guess I call it commercial or whatever their license is up there in your state. It's what he's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I mean,
the closest I'm going to be at this point to a commercial kitchen is I am going to put in a stainless sink, because I can get away with a home style sink. I did the cost on that. By the time I do the home style sink, we have a distributor just over the mountain. I can go to the Carnegie Restaurant Supply and get a stainless steel sink, a single basin with a drain board and all that for it's less than $400. So,
I think Carl can hook you up on a 3-sink. If you wanted to get in line down the road instead of buying it twice, I think you need to talk to Carl, because he has connections on some used stuff that you can get a 3-basin sink and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Carl before I do anything like that. But he's in that business. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he knows the ins and outs of it.
Right.
But what I'm always looking at is like, all right, this is what I want to do now. And then a couple years down, I really like to go and step it up a notch. Well, if you can kind of get some things in place that, yes, we can go forward because we've already bought it here, then it doesn't hit you with a big pile of money at that next step. Right. You kind of spread that cost out over time.
Yeah.
If you want to go to that. I see those stainless steel 3-holders on, used stuff all the time for a couple $100, $200 or $300.
Yeah. We have a lot of auctions. Restaurants are like the most failing business that there is, right? One of the top failing. There's all kinds of auctions. Like if you go on Auction Zip, there's all kinds of auctions that, they're selling that stuff constantly all the time. Around here, there's probably 1 or 2 auctions a month on that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of with you, Charlie. I'm looking like I could actually legitimately retire here in like 7 years. That
Mhm.
yeah, so who knows what's going to happen with the the honey part. That could maybe turn into a real business, and kind of setting myself up
Well, it's
for
like
that.
myself. I started out with one hive, and then I think the next, I got it through the winter for the first time around. I might have, maybe it was luck. And, 'cause I didn't know nothing about treatment. Of course, I don't think Varroa was quite as bad back then. It is today. And then let's go ahead and get a couple more hives. And then it got up to about 4. Then it got up to about 6. And then I studied Michael Palmer, and it was all about nukes. And so I put the nuke yard behind this hay barn to get it away from everybody. And then my wife and kids were young and everything, and they were up next to my house, and they were getting stung occasionally or getting ran after by the bees. So one winter, I went ahead and went out past the barn here where you see those hives right now, started making racks out through there and mowing the grass and stuff because it was, not being utilized by the farm that much. And I moved everything down here on that one row, and then I just kept adding more honey hives and stuff like that. I thought I was going to get up to 50. I got up to around 40 some hives with nukes and honey hive combinations and along with some mating boxes. And it was a lot of work. It was hard to keep up that year. And so how they say the bee yard kind of trims itself back naturally, depending on how much you can manage. And it trimmed itself back, and it was around 30, 32. I've been maintaining 32 hives going into the winter for the last several years. And it's not been that bad. And then I started doing this single brood thing 3 years ago, and that's been taken off, and honey sales have been taken off, and the nuke sales are good. I find them to be stressful. And I'm starting to realize that as the honey sales have really picked up, I don't have the stress with that. I am on my schedule with the bees. And I'm one of them guys that you got to be there when the bees tell you to be there. If you're going to do it, if you're going to be successful at it with the bees. And I get aggravated with beekeepers that, well, I want you to be on my schedule when I want to show up to pick the bees up, the nukes and all that. And I'm like, no, it don't work that way. I work during the day. I want you here at let's say 6:30 in the evening or 7 o'clock in the evening type of thing, and then some of the techniques of segregating, isolating the queen from the rest of that nuke hive. I've learned how to do that better in the last 2 years than I've done it in a long time with the queen excluder and stuff. And so I just jumping up on your the honey sales and increasing my honey production. I find it's easier just to take the money and hand them a bottle of honey, and I don't have to worry about the bottle of honey. They can pour it down the drain if they want. But when I'm handing them a box of bees that I've labored over and fussed over and make sure that queen's a good queen and that hive's really doing a nice job, I don't want it mishandled, I'll say. So I think that's why I'm backing off on the nukes to a certain. I like my nuke money. It pays for a lot of my expenses and all that. So
yeah, 'cause that's almost a couple $1,000 right up on top, right up in front. You can use that to buy supplies and treatment.
If I do 10 nukes, that's $2,000 right there.
Yep.
And I'll spend that much. I spend $2,000 to $3,000 every year in expenses.
Is there a way though, because you were talking about that before with your nukes, where people they don't show up, and it's the scheduling part of it. But
it's not so much don't show up. They want to. Well, I can't do it this week. How about next week? I says, lady, the damn things are going to swarm. They don't understand bees yet. They don't, they don't understand they overheat in a matter of an hour in a damn carb. Even though I take a cardboard box, a friend of mine's got one of them great big 6-inch hole saws. And you know where they had the perforations in the end of those cardboard boxes, like from Man Lake? You drill that thing out of there, and then you put an 1/8-inch hardware cloth over top of that on both ends. Not on both ends, but on the rear end of it, to give them the maximum amount of air. And they still overheating them boxes.
Well, how do these people do it? I see on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist a lot of times. They'll say nukes for sale. Like how do you just do like nukes for sale, and then just people? How do you do that? You know what I mean? Like, because I know what you're saying. Like, you got to go off of like when the bees are ready, right?
Yeah.
So somebody just going to pick up the phone and just say, "Hey, I need a nuke this weekend." Like, is that how they're doing it somehow? Or they just?
Well, with me, I do individual nuke boxes. So I mean, it's a hive. It's 5/5. And what I've learned now is to take a five frame queen excluder. I throw that in between those two boxes. I set the top box up, 3 frames of brood, frame of food, frame of pollen. I find that queen. I put her up on that top box. I throw that queen excluder in. All right. She's good to go. She's got ventilation. The worker bees can go up and down those 2 boxes of bees. They can regulate their population in both boxes where it's evened out. So now they're not now. And then what happened was a couple years ago, I went in there. All right, here's the queen. Put the file, put the frame in. Put all 5 frames in the cardboard box. Oh, this one's here's for my friend, and it was. And I said, I'll give him a couple more shakes of bees in there. 2 hours later, when he gets back across to the Eastern Shore, he's got a bunch of melted bees because I put too many bees in that thing. It didn't, and then I'm trying to do this in the afternoon. You get frustrated. Sometimes you can't find the queen. With this method, I can do this the day before or 2 days before. I can isolate the queen with the queen excluder. The bees can go out and back throughout the whole day. And then they come in later in the evening. She's still up in the box. The bees are up there with her with the brood and all that. So they've equalized their population out with the queen. And all I got to do is set that box off, transfer it into a wooden box or a cardboard box, and don't shake any more bees in there and close it up. I'm done. And the stress load is gone. That's what I've learned here in the last couple of years. A lot of people say, oh, you make a 5-frame cardboard nuke, and then you go out and you get you some queens, and then you drop them in. You can do it that. I've seen them talk about doing it that way. They put a queen in there from some other hive or something. They just make a nuke up.
Right. Yeah.
And they buy queens in. Well, I don't want to buy queens in. That's $35 or $40 a queen. Yeah. If it's a mated queen, what happens when it don't take, and all that. And then you got drift, and stuff like that. Maybe I'm just not that well versed at it to do it that way. I be guys, they do 100 queens or 100 nuke boxes at a time, and that's not for me. It's not my day job. I only have that evening hours in the summertime.
Yeah, but like you said, you can do that. Sell a few of those, make a couple $1,000.
What's that?
If you can sell a few of those nukes, make a couple $1,000, but don't get into it too much where it's, demanding all your time and stressing you out.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I want the bees to be fun, not stressful to a certain extent. So I'm going to go 14 honey hives, and you got 16 nukes. Well, that equals out to 30 hives. Now I got 10 out of the 16 that I can sell. I've got an extra 6 there something happens, if, let's say one of them dies or something like that, you got a little bit of a wiggle room. And those 6, if let's say all 10 of them make it through and you sell the 10, I got the other 6 still sitting there. Well, there's 6 of them there that I can use if I got queen issues down through the summertime or something like that. Or I take the 6, I pull frames of eggs out and I stick them in the other hives and let them make their own queens. Or with my demery method, I can take frames of eggs and stick them up on that top box, with the queen excluder or the honey supers in between. They'll be so far removed from the queen downstairs that they will start queen cells upstairs. The other thing is you got to do is make sure you've got them queen cells out of there before they hatch. That's the main thing on that. I like to go ahead and graft myself. Grafting is a lot of fun, and I don't know, you can have a little more control about it and stuff like that. So that's my plan. I'm gonna have the same amount of nukes. And another thing I found here lately, or I realized that come June, the end of June, or that's when the honey season's over with for me. Like the 1st of July, I'm done for sure. And then you put the 3rd medium back on top. And I was watching Underwood up there at Penn State, or next to you, where she basically what would you call it? Qualified what I already knew about spotter lanternfly. Come the end of July through August is when the honeydew comes in, right when we have a dearth. Well, the bee, you don't really have to watch the bees then. It's after June 21st. Queen's starting to slow down. No more swarming for the most part. They got an extra box on top. They got a month and a half of they're going to pack that honeydew in there. If it's a good crop, it's been 2 good years in a row for me. I don't have to feed them. And then come a week or 2 after Labor Day, I'll put the top high feeders on them and pour the sugar water to them with Apis biologic in it. And what I'm getting at is after you harvest the honey, your maintenance to those 14 hives get to the point where, I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Right.
Just to peek in and just to look, or a quick look see.
Right.
And I'm like, less work for me.
No, that makes total sense. That's why I don't know if you remember, like the last time I was on, I said I was going to follow your lead more on the way you're harvesting your honey, because I like the idea of harvesting honey in early July. And then,
well,
everybody was chasing that fall flow this year, and it turned out I know most people who were chasing that fall flow. I'm not speaking for everybody. They didn't get it, and then they're all emergency feeding in like October. Everybody's stressed out because their bees are late. Going into winter, it's not worth it.
The thing of it is, you said in October. Where were they at in September?
Well, I started feeding. I was feeding all throughout. I had several hives that were late, and I was feeding them all throughout all summer. And still in September, now I made the mistake because I'd never used 1-to-1 before, and I decided to try 1-to-1 this year. They put nothing on. They were consuming that syrup, but they put no weight on.
You were putting in nectar food that they utilized to raise brood and their own energy. There was no storage thing. You got to flip the switch in the brain of that bee. You want 2-to-1. Yeah. But you should have spotter and lanternfly. I know you do up there, probably.
Yeah, we have a lot of it.
It come, in Dr. Underwood, she said in the 2nd or 3rd week of July and through August, that comes in. Some people, I got to harvest that. The heck with that. It doesn't taste all that good. It's bad tasting.
Oh,
It's what most people call it. It's got an aftertaste of some sort.
But this bottled animal pie, I thought that was pretty good. I didn't know I was eating it.
Well,
If I would have known, I wouldn't.
you got a choice. You can, in September you can harvest that, and then you got to feed like crazy, and all that. But I here it used to be 4th of July is when the nectar flow stopped. And over the years, we have noticed, myself and along the older beekeepers, that the nectar flow is getting shorter. It's starting by after the 20th or a little bit later than that. It stops. It's not in July anymore, and a lot of it has to do, is it raining or is it a dry spell? If it's a dry spell, the nectar dries up. It'll dry up completely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, like Todd there, he got some rain and he got honey he never got before because it rained.
Well, we got dumped on, so that was nice.
Yeah, but you're in a desert state. In actuality, it's a desert state.
Yeah.
The only reason it's green, it's called irrigation.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what it is. I watched, me and my son were watching this guy. I don't know where, he might have been in Texas. And they were baling hay and they were using this bundleizing machine that we were looking at. And they had an aerial view. And guess what? His field was a circle. I said, that's on a pivot point.
Yeah.
And the only reason he's got hay growing there is because it's irrigating. My question has always been, you got a pipe that's 10 inches in diameter and you're sucking water out of the ground. My God almighty, what kind of a aquifer are you sucking out of?
Hey, you want to hear something funny?
And there's one out there they tell me it's like in Vegas or something. It's actually collapsing or whatever it was.
That's called subsidence. And the growers on the west side of the valley here have been sucking water out of the ground for years because of drought. Well, all of a sudden, the ground is starting to sink, and they notice it on roads that are going over canals. It used to be the water level was 3 feet below the bottom of the bridge. Well, now because the sides of the canals are sinking, the road is getting close to where the high level the high water mark is. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So hopefully last year a lot of it got recharged, but I mean we need several years of what we got last year to.
No, I don't know. I had a friend of ours. He was a well man here on the East Coast, and I forget what he called them. He basically, there was ponds that.
You mean aquifers? You talking about aquifers?
I guess they had the way I got it was they had holes digging down into the ground that the water would go into the ground and resupply the groundwater. Some way of doing that.
I don't know.
I guess it would be an aquifer.
But think about it. With all these, pipes and stuff going into the ground, it's like, you're at a drive-in. Back in the 50s and 60s, you're at a drive-in. Everybody's sharing a milkshake. You got like 6 straws in there. Well, that's what it's like with these growers around here. They got their wells, going down in the ground, and they're sucking everything dry, which you can't blame them. They need to make money too, right?
But then you got, like you say, your government out there don't want to put any holding tanks in.
Here's the worst thing, Charlie. Let's say you came from a farming family out here that's been farming here since the 1800s. Your family more than likely bought a water contract. That's good until eternity. So every year you pay 100% of that. Let's just put it in dollars. Just say you pay $100 and you get, 100% of whatever the contract says. Well, 2 years ago, you paid $100 and you got 5% of what you paid for. That's highway robbery in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
no excuse for that. So that's like buying something and only getting like a little tiny piece of it. Now you buy a gallon of gas and you get one drop. That's what it's like. It sucks. So things have to change. But in the meantime, if we get enough of these rains, it's going to help recharge the groundwater, and that helps too. But all they have to do is build a couple of dams. The other thing. Oh God, you guys are getting me on this. They just talked about it the other day about they're going to start recycling wastewater.
I saw that.
I just flushed a toilet a little while ago, so I guess that's going to turn into drinking water here in another month.
Yeah, but you're telling me that they were putting water out into the Pacific Ocean.
They were,
and they could have put it. You could have built some more lakes. I guess you would have to have a lake.
Yeah, dig a hole, put it in there.
And
Don't even bother flushing the toilet, Todd, just where you need a drink. I did see that.
Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate that. Merry Christmas.
We had Governor Brown a couple years ago. He came 6-7 years ago. He came up with the slogan: "If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down." I mean, this is crazy. But all they have to do is just build up the infrastructure. That's it. I mean, there's plenty of water. They let most of it go out into the ocean. So.
Well, poor management.
Yeah, it is. It is. But hey, whatever. I can't escape the state yet, so I have to deal with it.
Are you planning on it, Todd? Eventually, are you gonna move, or what are you gonna do?
One day I might. Yeah, my mom is still running around, so I can't. I'm not going to leave her here by herself. It's just my dad passed away 4 years ago, and I'm the only sibling left. So, I'm not going to move to Tennessee or Missouri or something and leave her here by herself.
Where would you go though if you could go? Where would?
Well, I actually escaped once and I came back. I came back in 2010, but I was living in Missouri from 2005 to 2010. If I had to go, if I left tomorrow, I would either go to Eastern North Carolina, Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, or maybe back in Missouri where I was at.
Yeah. The only problem I find with Tennessee lately is this darn hurricane, tornadoes and stuff.
Yeah.
They used to never had that problem.
That
I knew of.
Yeah. I need to do a move soon because these states are going to start outlawing people from California moving into their state. They're going to make it laws where you won't let us move there, so
I think
something soon.
Brian from Flower Street's moving to Virginia, I think, by the way. I think he's going to eventually do it.
Mark said I should move back to America. Yeah.
Just don't move to Pennsylvania. Nobody moves to Pennsylvania. People move out of Pennsylvania. Nobody comes to Pennsylvania. People even move to Ohio, but not Pennsylvania.
What was so funny, when I moved to Missouri, people were telling me, I'm scared to death to live out there because of the earthquakes. I'm like, well, that's funny. People out there were saying, I'm scared to death to move to the Midwest because of the tornadoes. But I'd rather take a tornado because at least that's coming, right? They can't predict an earthquake. No matter what they do, they're not going to be able to narrow that down. But a weather pattern you can see coming. So I don't know. People in the Midwest are.
I'm close. I mean, I'm in a couple hours where Darren lives and Carl, and the only problem I find with up where you got a lot of mountain area up there, and which is very nice and the scenery and whatever, but when it comes to economy type jobs, you don't have the volume of economy up there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, up where Darren is, I think you got Penn State, and if you don't work for the college or something like that, you don't work nowhere.
Yeah, yeah. It's either Penn State or you're working for a hospital or maybe a school teacher.
Yeah, because there's a police officer down here in my county. Where you come from? Up Penn State. And he says, I had to come down here to get a job, and he said, trying to get a police job up there, it was, not that many job positionings open and all that. So
then I go further up to the northern Pennsylvania, and I even like 2 hours up, and I work up there a lot. I travel up there, and I work for the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. I do a lot of driving, and I was up there and I thought, what do these people up here do? Like I feel like in my area, like there's no jobs there, but I go up there and there's just these small, tiny little villages of maybe like 8 or 10 houses. You drive another 10 miles before you get to another small village. And what do they do? Like, I have no idea, except maybe like you see a lot of signs for like contracting businesses. And I think there's just a lot of people who are out of, they find themselves out of work. So everybody starts up a little contracting business or a logging company or something like that. So there's not a lot up here.
Well, I like going down there below Roanoke and Floyd. Reminds me of my county 30, 40 years ago. This beautiful area. It's not too much. I mean, there's mountains, but not that bad of mountains. It's rolling hills and stuff. And, but it's like, okay, what do you do? As far as work, unless you're in tourism type of stuff. And that's minimal amount of work in that town. And then you get, up, I used to sit there at McDonald's and watch the old guys talk about, Joe Blow's coming back from West Virginia. He moved from Baltimore back home, as they would say. But he's got to come in this week to take and hit all his doctors, try to get them all done in 1 week. Get them all lined up on that 1 week because they're in town, because there's nothing out there. And then when they get to the point where they really need a lot of medical attention, guess what? They're moving back home to Maryland, because that's one thing I noticed is, we're kind of spoiled. We're close to Baltimore and we got some high-end hospitals here as far as, capabilities of doing stuff and all.
I think Tennessee's got a better tax system, don't they?
I don't know.
Is it? I think it's no sales tax or something like that.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it is.
Well, people from Maryland used to want to move to Pennsylvania because of the taxes. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be cheaper. And I'm like, not really. I says, you got your property tax, you got your head tax, you got your school tax, you got this tax, that tax. You add them all together, it's about the same amount of money and all. And a lot of them found that out. In Virginia, they have what they call personal property tax. I'm not sure what Tennessee does. I know where Bob lives in South Carolina, they got that. You got to pay tax on that new pickup truck you bought every year.
That's crazy.
Instead of for just when you buy it, sales tax. They tried to do that here one time. Everybody voted it down. So Tennessee has a 10% sales tax. We got 6%.
Oh, no state income tax. That's what it is. Tennessee.
No state. The federal ain't gonna let you off.
No.
I'll tell you, stop breathing.
Yeah, I went down to Williamsburg, and when you go out of the place that you get your tickets from, there's a sidewalk out through there, and on this date this happened, and on this date this happened, and on this date this happened. And I didn't realize, but federal income tax went into like, I'm gonna say like 1910 or something like that. It was way back there. It's been in there since then. And then I think it was back. What was it? I was doing some history. We were down at George Washington's house. And, they fought the Revolutionary War to get away from taxes and the French or the Brits and all that. The first thing that our government did was put in the whiskey tax, and people were up in arms. Well, it was supposed to be able to pay for the war they just won, and people just couldn't get that through their minds. And then it was supposed to go away after the bills were all paid, which I think it did back then. But it was the same concept in our federal income tax for, I think it was World One. I think it was back then, but we went from one war to the next to the war and never was able to pay the bills off. And here we are continuously to paying and all. But that was some of the history stuff. It was kind of like, really, it's been in place that long ago type of thing and all that. And it's like I talked to one old carpenter here. He said, yeah, our county put in a building permit fee. It was $25, Oh, it's just to be able to do this or that, Well, now it's thousands of dollars. And they just, for a while there, it was like, well, you got to pay $10,000 in order to get a permit to be able to build in this county, the right to build on the land that you own. And a friend of mine stated that to the people. I said, yeah, I'm not paying you for the right to build on my land. And he said, well, that's not what it's for. And he said, actually it is, but I think some of them rescinded that after a while, but anyway, back to what we're doing. But
B tags.
Back to modern times. We're probably still paying on World War II.
it ain't going to go away now.
No.
They can't even manage that. They have no way of managing anything and all that. So you say you put your beans away, and here's Brad. There's the.
Hey, looky there.
He can see us from all the way from Canada.
I can see you
You're
very
looking
well.
good. You're looking good.
Thanks, buddy. So are you.
How you seeing, Brad? My Rebecca got her eye surgery done the same day you got yours. She got cataracts.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, she's finally seeing better now. Finally.
Was it a similar procedure or something a little different?
I don't know what you got. I don't know exactly what you got, but
Cataract. Yeah.
Yeah, well, she got cataracts, but she got one eye done. Now she has to go in next week and or 2 weeks from now and get the other one done.
Carl. Hey Carl, I had the right one done a year ago on the 20th of December, and then the left one on the 19th this year.
Did you say you weren't allowed to drive for what, 2 or 3 weeks or something like that?
Well, it's not a defined period of time. It's when I can get back to my optometrist and get cleared, just to get a test and get cleared.
Right.
And because of the holiday season, they're closed next week and everything, so it ends up being just a little more than 2 weeks before I can get there.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm fine. I'm confident that I could drive just fine.
Yeah, she was driving the next day, so
yeah,
that's what had me wondering.
It's just that I can't. I was told no driving until you can. Actually, you know what? I don't recall it. They told me that this time. They told me that last time. They said you can't drive until your optometrist says okay, but they didn't tell me that this time. So, but that's okay. I don't mind. I'm kind of enjoying the not being able to drive part. A little more Christmas cheer.
Money dues, don't it?
Fresca.
You feel you're about 100% now? I know you said on your video it was about 95 or something like that, or 98.
I go about 99 because I'm still on eye drops, and I know one of them is kind of cloudy, so it does kind of give me a little
probably
bit
a bacteria or a antibacterial type medicine or something.
Yeah, that kind of thing, and to keep swelling down and all kinds of stuff. So I'm on two eye drops 4 times a day, and that'll taper off over the next 30 days. I have to take eye drops, so that's okay. I don't mind. It's pretty magical. Pardon me?
You're the $12 million man now. You got 2 bionic eyes.
Yeah, it's not quite 12 million, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know how much it costs because of our system here. I just have to show up.
We used to call you Steve Majors
Yeah, Lee Majors,
or
Steve
Lee
Austin.
Majors. Yeah, Steve
Lee Majors.
Austin. Yeah, that's right.
Steve Austin. It was Steve
Yeah.
Austin.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
He's dating
Yeah,
So
Jake.
very thrilled. Hey, Carl.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Good, good. You're
I got
looking
your
good.
package, Carl, if you didn't hear me.
I heard you earlier. Yeah.
I hadn't been able to eat it. I figured I'd wait till my senses got back to normal.
It'll be good. It'll be good either way, I'm sure.
Yeah. It looks good. You know, but well, I'm glad to hear you. Everything went well, Brad. And everything.
Looking good.
Yeah, I'm glad I can
Your,
report.
your eyes are
You know,
looking good, Brad.
You know, your
Thank
face looks good. You know, it looks,
Yeah, the other night your eye, you could see
Yeah.
your eye was like kind of tearing
yeah.
and stuff. I think a little bit. And that you look.
Yeah,
you're
it
looking
was.
good.
It was. I was having trouble with the brightness because of the dilation. The pupil was dilated. It was like a barn door. So I was really having a hard time. That's why I after a while I went and got my little eye patch and wore my eye patch for a while. But Arr. I had to start drinking rum then too. So,
I was going to make the comment about your eye. It looked like, I was going to call it a cat eye because you know how a cat gets all excited, their eye just,
yeah, it goes really big.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
that's
was gonna
exactly
call
what it looked
cat
like.
eye.
The creepy thing is one was normal and one was really, really
Yeah.
big. So it's kind of like Bill the cat, you know.
Mm.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. We'll talk about it sometime. It's pretty. I was a little apprehensive. I was more apprehensive this time because I knew it was coming, and it's not really that pleasant. You kind of have to lay there and watch, right? You have to watch, and
well,
you have a unique perspective.
well, can you get knocked? I mean, that just freaked me out.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait. They didn't put you down, Rebecca. They put Rebecca under for. They
Oh,
gave
no.
her anesthesia.
No, it was a spectator sport for me
Oh no.
No,
both times.
no. I
Just a,
that would freak me out.
You see this razor
One
blade
little
coming
adamant.
down, like
yeah. Well, you don't really see anything. Just an Ativan, and yeah, you can't really see anything. You can't tell what's going on, but it's just a bunch of. It's kind of like looking at a guy holding a flashlight while you're looking through the bottom of a glass of water. It's just kind of lights moving around, and because every time he's doing his thing, there's the lights that he's using. You know, they're just kind of goopy and moving around and stuff, and it's just
that's your that's your insurance system that you have up there, Brad. They don't put you down. They don't put you under for
couldn't
stuff.
afford the. No, you can go under
It's
if
either
you
that or
want,
they
but
knock you on the side of the head with a hammer.
yeah. If you go under, then it's a whole different ballgame. You're in the hospital overnight, and this is just a clinic. It's not it's not a hospital. It's actually a laser eye clinic.
That's
They've
exactly
The
got-
guys
what
back.
That's what Rebecca went to, and they knocked her out, and they had it done. She was out of there in 2 hours and back home. So
really went on a general and then went home. They don't do that here. If you go
Yeah.
on a general, you're there all night.
yeah,
When they done me, I was under anesthesia, but they just kind of put you in the relaxed mode. You wasn't really asleep.
yeah, Twilight or something like that.
You hear them all talking, and everything, and you could see them. But
They wouldn't let me leave without an escort because I was under the influence. But my wife was
That's
taking care
most
of
of my
me.
life. They don't leave me without an escort.
I can't go anywhere now because I'm under the influence.
Carl's under adult supervision most of the.
They try and keep me there. Yep.
Well, you can get on your tractor.
I could. I haven't been on my tractor since, though. And
You have to go-
here's
you have to
here's
go
the
down
thing.
to the
You
end
can
of the
actually get charged. You can actually get
Yeah.
charged for DUI on the tractor.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Carl,
because
Or,
if I go out in a tractor, I have a wreck and I'm liquored up, I can get charged.
Hey, same with the bicycle here.
That
You
sounds
gotta-
like
Yeah.
that sounds like a George Jones deal on the lawnmower.
That's a really bad luck day if that happens. I think.
But you need to get on your tractor and drive down to the end of the driveway to see if people gave you money that day.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, they come to the house. I don't have to go all the way there.
They drive. Oh, that's not so good.
So,
Yeah.
so Brad, how do they do your colonoscopies up there? Like, do they put you under for that, or do you have to deal? Are you awake
No,
for that?
actually.
Huh?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what they give me. I've had a couple of those, but I think it's kind of just Ativan too, and
Really?
it seems like I'm a little more out of it
Yeah.
when that happens. But no, it's just a general. It's just a relaxation thing.
It's
They don't put you out.
when I had mine done, they gave me a little bit of fentanyl for the pain, but they gave me a drug called Versed, which is a short-term memory drug. So you're wide awake. You
Yeah.
just don't remember anything.
That's kind of what Ativan does too.
Yeah.
You just don't remember anything, except I remember everything. Like that whole thing, even from last year, this year, I remember absolutely everything. And that was pretty tense this year. I didn't know what was coming last year. It was, not pleasant, but this year I knew what was going to happen, and I was pretty nervous. I was pretty worked up, but I just had to. Fortunately, it doesn't take very long, right?
Yeah.
They say it takes 8 minutes. I wasn't watching the clock, but they say it takes 8 minutes. I told the guy I can't change a tire in 8 minutes, and you're changing a lens while I'm watching.
Yeah, Brad's like me though. He drinks that gin straight and stuff. So when they put him on that medicine that he's not supposed to remember, it's like, well, you need to double down on that. It's not going to work.
Yeah,
And it doesn't
yeah,
work.
you
so,
need something. You need something strong than that. That's what my wife said. She said, "You're a great big guy." She said, "You need to get a couple of those Ativans." But who am I to say? Maybe they can't afford to.
When I had my procedure, I was laying on my left side, and the nurse said, "All right, start counting." I'm looking at the clock, and the clock was round, and then all of a sudden it got blurry, and it wasn't round anymore. The next thing I know, I'm laying there, my eyes are closed, and I feel this thing going in my stomach, going around and around in my intestines. And I must have said something because the doctor said, "Oh, give him some more Versed." And then I don't remember anything after that. But I remember that scope's crawling around in my gut.
Yeah. The last time that they did, I had a testicle surgery for the veins in my testicle. And they said, start counting backwards. So when I hit about 72, the anesthesiologist said, hold on, I got to recalibrate a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to up the.
And it was funny. It was only about, I hit about 60, and all of a sudden it was like, that was it. That's all I remember then,
Done.
So, they did that to me, Carl. I think I made it to 2. They said count up to 10. I made it to 2, and that was it. And then I woke up, and it was all over. But
yeah,
I think they gave me propofol.
Isn't it weird how the time you don't have any perception of the time? It's like you just kind of just kind of blink out and you blink back, and it's just kind of. Like
but those couple seconds
later,
before you go under, like before you're done, like you don't know anything at that point. Those few seconds before that, man, I'm higher than a kite. It's just like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize.
I guess I see Doug in the comments. He was saying that he had a general and back the same day. I guess for me, like being a big fat guy, that's probably they want to keep me overnight, make sure I don't suffocate or something. If I go on a general, so they never want to give me generals or anything because they think I'm going to die.
I see Philip still in here. I'm wondering if he ended up with a final total from the other night.
Yeah, Bill. I didn't get to. I was sick. I didn't get to do it or watch you.
No,
hey, Tracy. Good evening, Tracy.
I'm surprised somebody else isn't in here, like Phil or Brian and that. So. It was a good night the other night. It was very, very fun. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
So I know I'm I'm talking to Phil. I'm going to send some stuff out to him, and we're going to put a nice big basket together for out at the show for the Hives for Heroes and that. So I'm putting mine together. I'm going to call him tomorrow probably to get that rolling. So it's for a good cause, so I can't help it. Got to do it, you know. So
Yep. I sat in on a little bit of a chat last night locally, and it was up in Westchester, PA, and the one guy was,
that's an awesome number. So
huh?
Phil just
And-
put a final
Oh,
number.
$694. That's cool.
Yeah. So
But he was mentioning, he was getting set up, like you said, Carl. Yeah, I got to have one entry door, and it's a 3-hole sink. And I'm
Yep.
like, he's pointing out the same things that Carl's was pointing out. I didn't say nothing to him, but I said, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. Yeah, well, Darren's right. If he's just going for a home access and that, it's a lot easier. You can get away with a lot less. So, I mean, the main thing is a hand sink. 3-bowl sink is 3-bowl sink kind of sets you up for now, later, and free on, And Darren was talking about it, auctions around him and stuff like that, and Facebook and that. If you could find a 3-bowl sink, it doesn't have to be huge in that. As long as you have that sets you up for now and future and all, And you can find them pretty reasonable. So,
I think I've seen them on there like $300.
Yeah, if you watch Facebook and a couple of these Craigslist and that, you could buy. You just got to watch. You want to make sure it's an NSF 3-bowl, because they have what's called scullery, which is just squared out, and they have welded corners, and some places they won't pass it for NSF because it's welded. So you just want to try and make sure that you have NSF and it's rounded properly. And that most of the sinks now are NSF, but there's still some of those what they call scullery 3-bowl sinks that aren't NSF labeled in that. They're a little old school, even though they're stainless in that. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the inspectors today, as long as it's stainless, they'll still pass it. But it just matters which inspector you get, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
So there's a couple of corks in and out and that. So,
Well, the biggest thing is for all of us, it's good to have a friend like you, Carl, that knows the ins and outs of it, or
Yeah.
at least you're going through it right now, and you kind of work in that field too.
yeah.
And
I
all
work
that.
with it every day. So, I mean, I see it every day. And I deal with a lot of the inspectors. At least I'm in Northeast PA, and I deal with quite a few of the inspectors and that, and the ins and outs and that. And every one of them have their own little quirks and that. But number one is you got to have a hand sink. Number two is that 3-bowl sink is key. I mean, no matter where you're going, if it's house or future, like I'm going for what they call wholesale and retail. Because if you're retail, it's when you're selling yourself and you're going to a market and selling yourself. But if you hit a point where you're going to wholesale, which means that you're going to take it and drop it off in the 7-Eleven or a mini market or something like that, or another restaurant, they're going to sell it over the counter for you, then it's wholesale in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's besides the whole cottage laws and all the other stuff and that. So there's some ins and outs about it, So, and I really never realized it until a few months ago. Brian from Flower Street brought it up about the cottage laws and that. And then there's another one there in the state of Pennsylvania, at least, that you could do where you can go to a church that's certified, that has a certified kitchen that's licensed in that you could do a piggyback license where you could actually piggyback their license and be certified to work out of their kitchen. Yeah. Which a lot of the nice size fire halls and stuff like that, they have certified kitchens. And if you work with them or you're associated with them, they'll let you, for a rental fee, piggyback off their license and sign off for you to use their kitchens too, which a lot of guys do that too. A lot of these home cooks do that. And a lot of times they'll use a fire hall or something that has a setup kitchen in that. So at least in Pennsylvania, there's some ways you can get around it, but Darren hit it right on the spot. The one thing that PA is, they don't want to see any animals whatsoever. in the household. If you're going to do it out of your house, no animals whatsoever. I don't care if it's a freaking gerbil, they'll flag you, you know? So what are you laughing about, Todd? We're not as bad as California, though, I'll tell you that.
No. I'm laughing at the gerbil comment.
Oh,
Yeah, no, the same thing out here. No pets, no nothing, no
Yeah.
fun. You know.
so some ins and outs on that, you know? So, but
Carl, what was the thing I don't know if you remember, you mentioned it in the chat a few weeks ago about a type of venting or something in the drain?
I didn't mention in the chat. I shot you a thing on Facebook just because you were talking about that you had a plumber there working that in Pennsylvania, and I'm sure it's like this in most places. If you're going to have a 3-bowl sink, you have to have where the 3-bowl sink comes out before it goes into your drain. You have to have an air gap.
Okay.
So, in other words, it has to drop into a cone that there's an air gap between the sink and where it goes into the drainage system. Any new facility is going to have what they call as a floor basin. They're going to drop it in a floor basin, and it's trapped below the floor under that floor basin. So if you don't have it, like you're talking about your house, so what you got to have is a drain that's low enough that you could actually have it come up with a trap on it, and it's a bowl. So when it comes out, there's actually an air gap. So when it's dropping in, it's dropping into an air gap. So it's dropping into a bowl. So there's air between it. The reason for that is your sewage system ever backs up, it's going to go and it's going to hit the top of that bowl and it's going to spill out before it can go back into the sink.
Okay.
And personally, I think it's a bunch of bullshit because if you're there and you see that, obviously sewage is coming in your sink, you're going to stop processing. At least I would hope. I hope you would, unless you're a freaking moron. But it's the same old story. It's the same thing. Like if you have an ice maker in any restaurant or institution, you have to have an air gap where it comes out of the bottom because of these ice bins. They're very low to the floor. So when it comes out of the bottom of the ice bin and it drops into the drain, there has to be an air gap. So if the sewage system or something backs up in the drains, it can't back up and put soil water into your ice bin and sour your ice in that and contaminate your ice in that. So they call it an air gap.
Right.
So
I've seen that from dishwashers.
Oh yeah, you have that. Almost anything new you're going to have, it's going to have an air gap, and it's required. So it's just there's those little quirks. That's why when you were talking about it a few weeks ago, I shot you a message on Facebook because you were paying a plumber to come in there, and I didn't want to have him just plumb it in with no air gaps, and then you have to go back and fix it again and pay for it twice.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's why on Facebook I shot you a message quick. So, and I gave you my home number. Call me at home and I'll give you my cell number and that. And if you have questions when it's going on, I'll try and lead you in the right direction.
I'm going to give you a call before this.
Yeah, I'd hate to see you spend money on something and have to spend money to have somebody cut it out and redo it, and that happens a lot. So,
are you going to go with a grease trap?
Grease traps are only required if you are frying, cooking, and producing grease products, and you're dropping them into your 3-bowl sink. If you're not frying and producing grease in that, you do not have to have a grease trap. And most of the time, the grease trap is not required by the Department of Agriculture in Pennsylvania. It's required by your local sewage companies, require the grease traps because they don't want to have to deal with the grease. They want you to deal with the grease.
Well, I'm saying for the sake of capturing any wax or anything that's going down in the.
Well, that's a whole nother question. Is I know when I process here, I separate my grease in that, and I don't get any of the wax going down my sewage myself.
Okay.
I kind of separate it myself, so I don't worry about that. If you're worried about wax in that, it's a small expense, and you can get a small grease trap for $300-400. It'll do that and help catch the grease before it gets into your system. And if you're on a well and you're not processing the proper way, like I'm very careful about that because I'm on a sewage system that I put in myself, a septic tank and that. And so I take extra care to make sure it doesn't happen. If you're in a city or something and you're on a sanitary authority and you're processing anything where you're frying foods or cooking foods and that, they're going to want to see a grease trap because they don't want to deal with the grease. They want you to deal with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I mean, but if you're on your own sewage, it's not required for you. And if you're even on a sewage system in what we're doing, they're not going to require it. But me personally, if you're not careful, and you don't mind spending the $300-400, you can get a small to medium sized grease trap that will help catch the waxes before they get into your own system.
Who's the guy that has a channel? He does a series on growing a honey business. I can't think of his name.
It was Bob Benny.
He built.
Well, Bob Benny talked a lot about it. He made mistakes over the years about it, and Bob talks about if when you're on Bob's caliber, where you're doing thousands and thousands of pounds of processing of honey. He even talked about it the one time where he ruined his own leach bed in that because the antibacterial natures of honey in it, you could actually kill the good enzymes that keeps an active sewage system processing the water out through your sand mound and everything else. If you're not careful, you could kill your own sand mound and it'll actually, the water start leaching up on the ground. And there you go, 25 grand. You got to dig it all out and replace it and remodify it.
Yeah, it's Nathan Phillip. It was Duck River Honey. He did a series.
Nathan is pretty on top of that stuff. And I wouldn't doubt it's Nathan, to be honest, if he talked about that. Yeah. So I actually personally, when I'm washing my extractor in that, I do not put it in my leach field in that. I actually, when I do that, I personally take 5-gallon pails and I use red hot water and into the 5-gallon pails. And then I actually take that and I throw that water out by my bees in that, and I let them reprocess a lot of that stuff. So that way it's not being dropped into my leach bed and that. So I mean, but I have an 18 frame extractor, and when I'm extracting, I clean that maybe twice, 3 times when I'm going through my procedures. And for me to clean it, I'll go through 2 5-gallon pails. For me to take 2 5-gallon pails out and throw it out in the field out here, in 10-acre field, it's not going to hurt nothing in my field. And a lot of times the bees will get some of that honey in that back because they're going to go and get it. So that's how I process it. I mean, Brad's up there in the country. I mean, he probably deals with that quite a bit. And that. What do you do, Brad, when you're doing your processing and cleaning and that?
Well, I'm not going to talk about what I do, to be honest. But I think all of what you're talking about is correct. As far as wax going down your drain, if you're talking about like chunks of wax, that's one thing. If you're talking about dripping wax, that's going nowhere. It'll be solid by the time it hits anything. It won't go more than a few inches and it'll clog your drain. Ask me how I know. But yeah, I mean, the honey is acidic and all those properties that you're talking about, Carl. It's probably not something you want to be shoving a lot of that stuff down your septic system and out your field. Yeah,
and that's even when I'm cleaning my bottling tank. I mean, I have 3 bottling tanks, and I have the 2 creamers and the big bottling tank, and that. Even for me, I personally use a hose with about 140-degree water, and I spray it down. And pretty much even before using any soaps or anything, just that hot water cleans that tank to where it's pretty much spotless. I used to just carry my extractor out and let the bees clean it. I'm past that now. I'm getting tired of carrying stuff outside. So my next equation is I try not to put anything in my system. So I use a couple 5-gallon pails. If I'm doing my extractor and my bottling tanks, I might carry out 4 or 5 5-gallon pails, and I'll take them out to the field because they do have some honey in that, and I'll spill them on the ground and the bees find it and that. If not, there's a little bit of wax that's out in the field. It's not gonna hurt anything here. So that's how I go about it. So I'm in my house 20 plus years, and I did have to replace my system once. I had my in-laws and that living here with me, and they were using those flushable wipes, and I didn't know it. And
Oh,
it turned
no.
out to cause a lot of problems.
Oh,
So
Mhm.
I actually had to replace my system. Thank God I have the ability. I did it myself, where it only cost me a couple grand to do. But if it was somebody else that didn't have that ability, it could cost them $15,000, $20,000, $25,000.
Yep.
So it can get very expensive. I was pissed I had to do it. It was a lot of work, but I had to do it. And after I brought in a roto-rooter company that I deal with and that to clean my tank on occasion, when I found out what they were pulling out, I didn't know it until after it was too late. So, I mean, you just got to look for the ins and outs and try and protect yourself, you know? So,
James is $9,000 for him. Putting that
Yeah.
in septic system in easy.
yeah, it's not cheap.
So
So try and protect yourself. And you know, Darren, it matters what scale you're at. If you're a small scale, you don't have to worry about it as much. But as you
Right.
get bigger, you know, I mean, next year I'm planning on to have 70, 80 hives, active hives by the end of the season. I want to start protecting myself and thinking ahead, you know. So Todd's at that volume, you know, Brad's at that volume. They're bigger than that. So you got to try and protect yourself, you know. So
Yeah, lots of good information.
So just food for thought, and that, you know. So Charles, you were telling us about your biologic before I was putting the kids to bed, the apis and that, and are you feeding any of that now, or I know you
no,
did?
when I use Apis biologic, that's what I put in my sugar water when I'm feeding in the fall. After Labor Day, I start feeding. I try to be done somewhere around the 15th of October.
Okay.
Here lately, the weather's been warm throughout the latter part of the season, going like here in December. In past years, it used to get just downright cold and stay cold, you know.
Yeah.
And no bee's going to be taking any liquid at that time. So I have it set up to where I have a 40-gallon, I got a 55-gallon honey tank drum. I heat it, 20 gallons of water, 250 pounds of sugar. It's a little bit less than 2-to-1. And then when it cools down, then I mix up. This year I learned through Bob and them, I take a 3/4 of a quart of water, put it in a blender. It takes 1 tablespoon for 40 gallons of sugar water. Put a tablespoon of Apis biologic in there, blend it, pour it back into the quart jar, take it down to where the drum is, dump it into the drum and and then mix it. Mix the stir and stick that's on that machine, you know, mix it up. And then I put it in my tank and take it around to my hives with my truck and pump it off on all the things. So all the sugar water has Apis biologic in it.
Yeah.
And I think Brad's agreed with my analogy that, to me, Apis turns your sugar water into nectar. It gives it all the properties as best as possible of what nectar has. And the bees they don't thrive, or they survive off of it. They thrive off of this nectar come springtime when they're really trying to build. And, you know, this spring was my first year with it. And this is I had Hive Alive sent to me. I've tried Apis biologic. Bob Benny's talking about what's it called? Super microbials.
Yeah. I saw you.
Powder stuff. You know, there's so many I don't know, stuff out there in the market. But this is the only stuff I've ever seen. Now, it took me a winter of, so many months in order to see the results. Where normally I have 3 medium boxes on my stack, And for years, it's always the same way. The two top boxes is where the brood and the bees are at. And the bottom box might have a handful of straggler bees completely empty. So this spring, I was going to, it was going to be the norm. I thought I was going to take the two top boxes off, pull the bottom off, and drop those two boxes straight down. Well, that wasn't happening this year. It was overflowing like a volcano of bees. There was brood in every box. There was solid packed full of bees in every box. The field force is just, the amount of bees are horrendous. So that's, you can see the results of what this stuff can do. And I think the bees, respond to, very good food, nutrition, and they can survive off of sugar water from what I can see of it now, but they'll thrive off of this stuff when it turns the sugar water into nectar. That's the big difference. And then I really don't give them pollen patties in the spring. I kind of got away from it. I just paid for 20 pounds of the Apis biologic pollen patties from up Canada for Nobby. And I used 10 pound of it this year, kind of experimenting with it. I found actually using it in the fall was a little bit more, the bees like to use it more because there was a pollen dearth. And they used it more so then than they did in the spring. The only thing I can think of is if I put a pollen patty on late January, early February, because about March or mid-March, depending on the weather conditions, then your maples and stuff start to bloom around here, and they're not going to touch it. And
see, when I was out the show last year, I bought the global patties with the Apis and that, and I put them on early March and start feeding them that. And I bought, when I was out there last year, the Hive of Life patties, which I wasn't that impressed with them, to be honest with you. I mean, my sugar boards I put on with the Honeybee Healthy and that, it seemed like that they took them the same as the other ones. And I didn't see a drastic difference with the dysentery. But also last winter, we had those two real cold spells, one early in the winter and one little later in the winter. They did more damage to my bees than anything else because there was a lot of 50-degree days where they were getting out and they were getting out to desecrate and that. And I didn't have any problem with dysentery last year. I don't know if that had anything to do with the Hive of Life, but I think the weather had a lot to do with that. And I didn't realize that I missed the ticket on the fall feeding. I should have been using that Apis in the fall, which I think I missed that ticket, obviously.
Yeah, that's the only time I feed sugar waters in the fall. Some people feed it early spring.
Yeah,
and they talk about using it to build the hives up. Well, this Apis, I don't know. Maybe I don't have all the experience about it. I've only had 1 year's worth of experience, but I don't see no need to because they're building up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used it in the spring. Now I used the Apis in the spring, and I fed in the spring in that because up here around me it was like an up and down with the spring break. I had cold, warm, cold, warm. We were going back and forth a little bit up here in NEPA, and I had a little back and forth. And the maple actually bloomed a little late, and even when the trees were blooming here, we had a couple nasty frosts, and we lost a lot of our bloom. Yeah. And we were actually kind of late, and it kind of screwed with everything this year. So it was a thing. I used it, and I think it helped me in the spring this year, but I missed it in the fall. And then Bob also was talking about it a lot, and there was a whole hiccup there where he lost the rights to the Apis and that because I was going to order off him, and he lost the rights to it. And we kind of like, I'm following this chat and with you and Bob and that. When that all happened, there was a little bit of less talk about that too, obviously. So I probably missed that, and I probably should have followed up on it, but I was busy with 10 other things going on like usual and that. So I'm still trying to get down my ways of doing things too. You know, I'm going into my 5th year, and I'm trying to get my ways of doing it, and I'm getting better every winter, getting my bees through. So, you know,
Yeah, I for me, it's like everything else. I mean, you're more north than me. So you're in the mountains, and your weather is different in the mountains.
I just read Philip's comment.
What's that?
That's all right, Phil. Well, there's many people don't like me probably anyway, so I speak my mind, and I apologize if I offend somebody.
That's the spirit, Carl.
It won't be the first person that's mad at me.
Um,
I just looked to the right and I saw that comment and it cracked me up. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I haven't seen any proof of that product yet.
I still have some patties downstairs. I'm gonna use them, obviously.
Well, as far as fondant goes, I mean, I don't know. I used to buy 50-pound blocks of it and cut it. It's sticky. It's messy. And I'm like, I am done with this stuff. And I got rid of it, I think, this last winter. And I'll do a sugar brick I'll make sugar bricks if I need to make any. Over that, it's a whole lot easier to use, and it's more durable. People talk about, well, if you don't use them this year, you can make sugar water out of them. And I'm like, no, you don't. You just put them in a Tupperware container, and they're good for next year.
That's right.
I got a hive right now. It's that little single nuke I was telling you about where I almost killed the dumb thing. And I put a shim on it, and it's got nectar in the frames, but I put last year's sugar brick, some pieces that I had on that hive for them, and they're on it right now.
Who's out?
But I don't know. Right now, I've gotten to the point where I pretty much have everything kind of timed out, I guess you would call it. I'm going to do it. I have an idea. I'm going to do this at this time. And, come the end of March, put my honey supers on, get my hive set up for honey production. And then do work on my nukes as far as April comes when it's ready to sell. And then April, May, and June, you're out there adding honey supers on and pulling frames of brood out from the bottom and putting it upstairs and cycling the empty frames in and out, and which increases my honey production and increases my population. And hopefully all that will work well this year without any queen issues. Now, this year, I've been, like I was telling Brad earlier on this year, I've got all my queens the same age now. They're all 2023s. So I don't have that, 3-year-old queen there that's going to die on me in the middle of honey season and stuff like that. And then I have, my treatment schedule. That's one thing that I kind of depends where you're located, but I have pretty much a schedule for that. And I use 3 different products. I do my apis or my oxalic acid vapor. So far, November, they got 2 treatments about 2 weeks apart. December, they got 1 treatment because of
I
weather.
could do one of those if I wanted to right now.
What's that?
Vaporization.
Why?
Yeah,
Why
because
is
they're
that
flying.
so
They're
scary?
flying like crazy.
Yeah.
I'd have to go out there right now, in the middle of the night to do it.
Well, I happen to hit them to where I like it around 45 to 48 degrees, where they're sort of in the hive, but they're loose.
Yeah.
And so December, it's either 1 or 2 treatments I try to get in. So December has gotten 1 treatment. That was last Saturday, a week from today. And by the time it'll be after Nobby before I get out there again, depending on the weather. But the drop this year is significantly less. And I looked in my notes from last year because I have my phone and it's got a thing called Color Notes, and it's just a free app that came with it. You can either do text or you can do check boxes and stuff like that. Like a check box might be for groceries. You can tap it and it'll put a line across that say bread that you've got it, or you untap it and it brings that bread that you need to get at the store. Or you can just sit there and talk to your phone. And I always sit there and say, okay, it's such and such a date, and the weather temperature was this at, let's say it's in the evening or something like that, 4:00 Saturday afternoon. And I'll sit there and tell myself what I did in my apiary. And you can go back a year later, if it's in the winter, and you can go back and look at your notes and gives you a clue of what's going on last year, which can help you do what this year is. So last year I had some heavy drops and mites on my drop boards underneath my hives because I got screen bottoms. So I went back and I found that I had done Formic Pro first and then Aprivar later on in September, I think it was, which was odd because usually we happen to get a window there. I guess it was in July. I guess it might have been in August. And it was, 75 degrees or something like that. And I took advantage of it and I put the Formic on. Well, this year it was too hot in those months. So I put Aprivar on and then I put Formic on. And I'm looking at the fact that by judging from the drops from the OA, which is minimal, that the Formic really did a good job. I put the double pads on the 10 framers and stuff like that. But I had 2 weeks of 75-degree weather with low humidity. And that's the big key thing. And about not being detrimental to your queens and stuff like that. I think humidity plays a big part. And I forget who it was here talking about. I think maybe it was Todd talking about the what is it called? The relative humidity or something. It's like, when the weatherman says, well, it's going to be 30.
Oh, you're talking about the heat index.
Maybe that's what it was. It was like, it's going to be 75 degrees today, but with humidity, it's going to feel like it's 85 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you're using that product, you really need to look at the relative humidity, high temperature to when to put it on. Yeah. Because I think bees respond to humidity just like what we do.
Yeah.
If it's, it might be 80 degrees and it's under the threshold, what they say on the package, but with humidity, it's 95 degrees. Well, I think the bees were going to die because it's 95 degrees.
Yeah. So
because it feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the acid magnifies that, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
Charles, I had a local beekeeper that I met at one of the shows 2 months ago. And he came up to me and introduced himself. And he said, I want to try your creamed honey because I heard you chatting on one of these chats.
Yeah.
And he tried it. And he tried the 3 creamed honeys I had. And he said, they're spot on. He said, they're excellent. And we started chatting. And I asked him what he uses as a treat. And he said, Formic Pro. And I said to him, I've used it a couple times and I can't say I'm an expert by any means of it. I said, and I've had mixed results with it. I said, I lost some queens. And he made a statement to me that made me think a little bit. And his statement to me was, I've been using it for 5 years now. And he says, I like it. I've had great results with it. And he says, I'll tell you something about losing queens with Formic Pro. He says, when it's hot here, I don't use it in August. He says I use it earlier in the year, or I use it real late in September.
Yep.
And he says I don't have hardly any problem with it. And he says, but if I lose a queen, he says, you know, one thing he said, this guy's a bookworm. And he says, I track everything with every hive. He only has 10 hives. I think he
Right.
said, or 20 hives. And he splits a lot during the summer and that, and sells off some nukes early summer and that. He says, what I found is if I lose a queen, he said, most of the time it's an older queen and there's a queen on the way out anyway. And he says, I consider it doing a good deed by me. He says, because usually the bees are already starting to make a new queen, or else I lose that queen and they make a new queen and that hive comes back stronger anyway.
You know, Carl,
it-
that's what Randy Oliver said. He was talking
Yeah.
about that. I saw in our presentation he did, and that's what he said. He said that, you know, yeah, you know how Randy talks is really funny. And he says,
Hey.
yeah, Foreman Pro's going to kill some of your queens, but those are crappy queens anyway. You don't want them, so it just weeds out the garbage.
Yeah, it made logic. You know, it
Hey,
made
Ian.
logic to me. You know,
Hey, boss.
It did make logic with me, and you know, and I've used it a handful of times, and I did lose a couple queens, but I'm not one for tracking real specific. I got to get better at that, and that's something I have to work into as I'm growing, and I also have 80,000 things going on running two businesses besides this business, which that's what this turned into now. And it's something I have to get better on my end, and I know that, you know. So it's a learning process, and I find it that way. I have to track a little better, and I have to do my due diligence and that. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not great with that small stuff, and it's something I have to get better at, especially in this if I'm going to grow this business. So
Well, that's what I say about with the advice from Bad and different ones about keeping your queens no more than 2 years.
yeah,
Is that after watching the other guys keep that good record, they don't seem to have the issues.
yeah.
you
And
know.
there's somebody who just came in here. I saw Ian came in here, and he's on top of it all the time. I know he's tracking his queens and how old they are, and I'm sure that you do that, Brad, very well too. You know,
Well,
so
Ian and I have very different strategy, though.
yeah,
Ian's been breeding in self replacement for years, and his stock is very good at replacing their queens.
Yeah.
And I don't so much. I more track their ages, and then, you know, try to get them replaced on more of a defined schedule.
yeah. And when
Yeah.
I get time, I watch Bob Binney, and it seems like Bob Binney has the theory that he pretty much requeens almost yearly on a yearly basis.
Yeah, he's
From
a
what I'm
different
seeing
strategy,
and when
yeah.
I can watch, you know. So and he's a very productive guy, so it makes you think that obviously it's working well for him. There's a reason he's doing it.
It's more about your management, you know, what you choose to do and what you can manage to do. And
Yeah.
if you can, I mean, I don't think anybody here would disagree that if you can come up with a management style and a workflow process that allows you to requeen every colony every year, I don't think anybody would say that that wouldn't be a beneficial process to get into. But it's just a matter of what can we manage, what can we handle. You know, there's one person trying to manage 150 colonies or more. Can I manage that? Can I do that every year? I don't know. I'm busy doing a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was talking to a beekeeper there in around Chester, Pennsylvania. And Ed is he's a well-read person, you know, and he's an engineer, but he can also build stuff with his hands. So he's not just paper smart, you know, book smart. And he's been working with queens, and he's got about 30 hives. And he was talking about it, and him and these other guys get together. They're going out there. He's got a homebred queen to where they're not even wearing any veils anymore. I mean, you know, he says you got to go a little bit slow, but the bees are not in your face. They're just dead calm. And they're good honey producers too and all that. And I'm like, I think you can do that if you have the persistence every year in order to, to breed those queens out of good stock that you've identified and stuff like that. And it's, to me, that's, that takes a lot of talent, I think, or a lot of time to track that kind of stuff and all.
Yeah, trick is, because it does take a lot of overhead to really decide what's meaningful data to you. Like, what do you really want to know?
Mhm.
You could track a pile of data that you'll never look at. And, again, for somebody that's got to maximize, I got to maximize my impact every day on my operation. I'm going to spend some time tracking data I'll never use. That's a total waste of time. Do I
Yeah, I just
sometimes
gotta-
wish I had tracked things? Do I sometimes look at colonies or look at situation and think, geez, I wonder what's going on here, and think, man, I wish I had a little more data. Absolutely, I do that all the time. But it's a balance. What can I really expect to track?
It's like Frederick Dunn put out that question. I don't know what if you guys got it or not, about do you use some kind of hive tracking, computer-based thing or whatever, or handheld unit thing. And I'm like, I've looked at that stuff, but who's got the time to do all that?
Mine's a
In-
white marker and on the lid. That's my
I'm
hive
using
tracking
a
right there.
Sharpie on the lid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use a piece of like medical tape, go across there with a black Sharpie and do my own notations and let it go at that. I had one young guy come and he said, "You've got all these hives." I said, "Yeah, every one of them has little notes on them. I know what's going on in them hives because I can't remember what I did 5 hives back." That's
I
how
had
short.
somebody in one of my videos.
Yeah.
He went on and on and on,
QLVP.
giving me heck for not. Oh, you gotta visit every hive every day, and you gotta make detailed notes on every hive every day. And he went on and on. He was quite upset that I wasn't doing that, and gave me, you go to a hive and you don't know what's going on. That's bad management. Yeah, I guess in a context it is, but you can't. And often I'll go to a hive and I'll look at a mark on the lid and I'll think, what in the world does that mean? And then I'll have to start putting it
Been
together.
there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking when I wrote that on there, because I don't have very specifically defined notation yet. What do I write on the hive when it needs to be requeened? I don't know. I'll write something on there. RQ. Maybe I'll just put RQ on there or
Right.
something.
Or QR for Queen Right.
QR for queen, right?
Yeah, well, I put on Queen laying very good, QLVP, and dash 6 frames brood.
Yeah.
And then at least if we don't get in there until a week or two later, we look and we could say when we're open the lid, all right, Queen was laying very good. There's 6 frames of brood here, so
Well,
we're getting better with that.
Is
getting there.
my assessments in the spring when I take them out of my building. Typically I put some Epivar in and some patties on and stuff, but I'll take my first assessment and I'll just crack the lid, take a quick look, and it's just an arbitrary, it's just a number, and I'll just go just strokes on the lid, 1, 2, 3, 4, usually 1 to 3. 1 is that's not going to make it. 2 is she's a little small. 3, they're fine. 4, the gold star. Not a lot of 4s, a lot of 3s, some 2s, a few 1s. So
Have
then
you got
later on, I can go back to that and I can say, geez, a month ago, this was a 3.
look at Ian?
Charlie just read the same one that I read.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say when I go to them, maybe.
Now, what's your criteria? Let's say a number 4. Are you looking at frames of brood or
At that
just
point,
what?
no, because they're fresh out of the shed. I can't pull things. I just crack the lid, kind of look at the cluster size. That's it, right?
Look
I
as
don't
far
even
as
know if they're queen right.
population and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I don't even know if they're queen right. But if they're not queen right, they're not going to be that big that time of year
Right.
for me.
I think
so. That's
Out
all
of
I can
12
do.
of
So
my
then the
honey hives,
second
it's-
assessment, then I can compare that. I
Yeah.
can, a few weeks later, I go in and say, this was a 3 and now it's a 1. What the hell? The WTF, right? What's going on here? So maybe it's obvious they don't have a queen at that point, something like that. So that's, the beginning of it for me.
I know, like after the Apis, when I opened them hives up behind me there, I think 11 out of 12 of them were all 4s. If that on your marking conditions, they were just overwhelming with bees and brood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything. But
WTF,
that's
good
my
day.
main goal this year. If they're like that this coming spring again, it's being able to capture that energy in that hive, that field force and everything, and maintaining that throughout those next 3 months of honey season. And not letting them, like you say, going from a 4 down to a 2 and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And all.
Yeah.
That's
So
my
that kind of thing might tell you that, okay, maybe, I need to requeen that because obviously there's something wrong. So need to requeen
Well, see,
that.
I think that's another thing. I had 4 hives there with a bunch of old queens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they went queenless on me. And I'm like, what? And I threw some nukes in there and that got me out of a bind. But I still think I lost a couple 100 pounds of honey because of that.
And I might turn that one into a zombie, right? I might come and say, hey, this is a 3 and now it was a 4 and now it's a 2. Then I'll say, okay, I'll just stick that in a poly box, put it in the corner. Now it's a zombie nuke. Sometimes they turn around and they do really well for me, but sometimes they die. So it'll go either way with those.
Yeah.
Charlie, I'm gonna get out of here. I got to get up.
All right,
early in the
Joe.
morning.
I know it's getting pretty late.
Yeah.
Good night,
I
Joe.
got to run the sound
chat
at
with
church
you, Joe.
tomorrow. I hadn't done that in a few months.
Right. All right. Well, we'll catch you later.
Merry Christmas.
Y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Merry
Be safe
Christmas,
and have
Joe.
a good one. Todd, how do you go around marking? Todd, you got quite a few hives, and
Same thing. I just have a lumber crayon. Just make notes, abbreviate it. That's it. But I'm like everybody else. The hell did I write that for? Or
I've done
What
that.
was I
more
drinking
once.
when I wrote that?
it's like, holy shit. Excuse me. I'm like, crap. Well, I don't even know what to do here. So then I open up the lid anyway.
Well, I pretty much this past year, I think almost every one of my hives, I pinched a lot of queens and let them requeen themselves and that, because I was in the process of trying to get that buckfast out of my hives, because some of that buckfast I had where you would open a hive one time, it'd be wonderful. I opened the next time, it was like an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And having a 6 and 8 year old coming out in the yard with us, it's something that I didn't want, even if they're in the bee suits and that. So I brought in Cornelians. I brought in 10 queens from Corey Stevens, with the VHS, and I've had very good mic control. I've been very lucky with that. So I brought it in, and I kind of did some crossbreeding in my own yard with the drones and that. And by the end of the season, I had much tamer bees. And, I started with 14 last year. I got up to 54. Now going into the winter, I dropped all the way back to 32. So I'm hoping I can come through this winter with something in the mid 20s. And then I'll be ready to split. I have quite a bit of frames sitting ready to go. I could probably jump right out to 65, 70 hives in the spring. And I'm hoping by the end of next year, I can possibly get 80 or 90 maybe. I'll see what happens. I'll take what I can get. I'm not going to overdo it, but I'm also not going to go out buying either, So I'm trying to breed my own stock, and I'm trying to keep that my level where I have it. I didn't have a single shake of more than 10 this year. So I think that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to keep doing with the OA. I'm just like you were talking about earlier, Todd, if I get 2 or 3 days in the 40s, maybe even hitting 50, and I can get up there and hit them, I hit them with the OA here and there. but I can't do it day in and day out because I'll have one day it's 40, one day it's 45, and then I'll have one day it's 50, and then all of a sudden I'll be back down to 25. So I'm getting those hits where I can to try and keep the levels down, you know?
Well,
So-
with the OA, I started out years ago where I had it in my mind that if I did consecutive treatments, that I would kill the mites as they're coming out of the uncappings, like Aprivar does. And you know, I lost a bunch of nukes that way, and I said, okay, I'll finally listen to the science guys. Do it when it's as brutalist as possible. And then in the last 2 years, I've been hitting them once or twice a month, all the way through winter, all the way up to March. And that seems to be the key. You're suppressing and maintaining that low mite level throughout that season or that year. And that's the one thing I kind of noticed with Bob and a lot of his ones with the Appy tablets is that I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't see you having your mite loads under control. I don't know where they all live at. You know, I know my area is defined. I know from September on, you know, bee season's over with and mite treatment season has started for the rest of the year into next year, into the springtime. And, you know, like Todd there. Todd, I don't think you have any winter out there, or at least not there this year. You know, and that's a hard situation to and you got brood in your hives.
I do right now, yeah.
And what do you do with in that situation? You know, I don't know. You're going to have to figure that out yourself because of your environment. You know what you can use, and I really would. I don't even have any answers for you on that one because of the environment.
I'm just crossing my fingers that what I've already used has worked, and I'm levels are low, low enough where it get me through to May, and then I could do something about it. But yeah.
But is May your start of your honey season?
First flow is April with oranges. So that'll go about 3 weeks, maybe 4, maybe 2 again. I don't know. Like I said, Mother Nature's a crazy scientist. But
I say crazy bitch.
that too. But after oranges, then there's a mixture of things that come in, and then the thistle starts in the summer, and then so I could do it in May.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been going for 3 hours. I'm going to go ahead and shut the chat side down, and we'll see you some other time. I'll say, next Friday for sure, hopefully. So goodbye, everybody.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Yeah, that's for sure.